From 80 to just 2 remaining here, we are live from Austin, Texas, as we bring you the grand finals of the World Championship Series Austin, as two of the biggest names in the Western world will clash in a best-of-7 series. One of them will march on forward to the WCS Global Finals towards the end of the year. Welcome, ladies and gents, to the desk, as I am joined to my left by In Control and Todd to take a look at what is sure to be a phenomenal best-of-7 grand finals here for WCS Austin. Gentlemen, Neeb versus Nerchio. They barely need any introduction. We're going to do it anyway. But overall, these two are absolute titans of the Western scene.
Nerchio have been doing it a very long time. You think of home story cups and dream hacks and stuff for years and years, been one of the best, all while getting a college education. The man is very smart and very capable, as it would turn out, but he's facing one of the new breed. Neeb last year really made a name for himself. A former Terran player, which I think is really interesting, switching to Protoss and then kind of actually molding the meta of PvP around him, something a foreigner has not done since Stefano, I would say.
Yeah.
And they're meeting in the finals here, both players not taking easy paths. It's not like one of them kind of breezed through. They both faced stress. They both had to overcome other champion caliber players, and it's shaping up to be a hell of a PvP, or I almost said PvP, but a final anyway.
They've got quite a bit of history with one another as well, and they play pretty regularly. Neeb has a good winning record against Nerchio, actually, as of late. I'm not sure how much we can read into that, though. We saw on the ticker the message, Nerchio mentioned that he wasn't that confident in his EVP right now. I'm still pretty sure he's very, very strong in the matchup, so we should never take like those statements literally. Couple of things I'm sure of. We're going to see a ton of adepts, oracles, banelings, hydralisks, and we're going to hear Neeb.
Oh, yes, we are, definitely from this American crowd. Can already hear them as they're going now. But for now, we are almost ready here to begin the grand finals, as Neeb goes up against Nerchio.
It feels pretty great after I haven't been doing so well recently. So to make it to finals again, especially in front of the home crowd in America, feels really good.
Yeah, it's pretty exciting, although my opponent will be very strong, so I'm a little bit worried as well.
These two players are going to be going head-to-head in just a few moments' time. The road, as you mentioned In Control, has been a long one for a lot of them. Neeb even did have a stumbling block in Kelazar that we just saw there for a moment's time. But since the bracket has begun, he's been able to power on through in some close series here and there, but he's here.
Yeah, and I think in a lot of ways that prepares them for the finals. Sometimes you worry for the player that hasn't really faced a whole lot up until the finals itself, because being tested is that big final hurdle to really becoming a champion. But Neeb absolutely has been. I think back to not too long ago, his best of 5 against Special, which I think was a really good test. He had a game plan going into it, and then Special started to mix things up and really throw him for a loop. And it went down to that game 5, and even that game 5 could have gone either way, but there was some real critical moments where the right choices were made, patience was shown, and that's the kind of stuff you look for from a champion caliber player, which Neeb has been and is looking to return to.
And we'll get a chance to talk about it in just a minute, Todd. For now, though, we are going to be heading over to the stage. As Smix is ready, the players are ready, and I hope you out there are ready.
Thank you very much, Caleres. Ladies and gentlemen, it is time. Welcome to the 2017 WCS Austin Grand Finals. So excited to introduce these two players. Up first, we have our American home crowd favorite and Kespa Cup champion, hungry to take first place, especially after finishing as runner-up last year. But he has a very tough opponent in this Polish Zerg, who already has 3 premier titles under his belt, and today he is looking for his 4th. Austin, give it up for Neeb and Nerchio!
just feels right after WCS, well, in fact, after DreamHack Austin last year in 2016 with Nerchio making his way to the stage against Hydra, being pipped at the post in the grand finals. He makes his way here once again. He's going to be going up against Nerchio, but Todd, Neeb, what can you tell me about him?
Neeb is such a crafty player. Like he, you know, you mentioned the meta of Protoss and stuff. Like he's one of those guys that will perfect his builds, but not in a way that he's going to play repetitive at all the time.
Yes.
And once upon a time, he was one of those guys that was just one of the first few to really execute perfectly the build where you would just go for Nexus, Twilight Council, Resonating Glaives, a ton of Adepts. So the meta has changed a lot, and I still expect to see quite a few Stargates into Adepts aggression here from him. But in general, he's pretty good with everything.
Yeah.
The only way to really beat Neeb, it feels, is like you have to find a way to trick him somewhere in there, make him fall behind, and then from there, you can kind of make him fall apart. But it's very hard to do. Rarely happens. We did see him at times get surprised, though. There was that one game where he played against Zerg Grades. The Christmas joke comes back to my mind.
Of course.
And but that one game that was weird. He dropped down the forge and tried to go for a cannon rush, which just didn't work out. So it's possible for him to make mistakes, but it happens very rarely. In a best of 5, he lost one map because of it. In a best of 7, I mean, even if he loses one map, he's still going to be winning the other games.
That, for me, is the key, is that Neeb is willing to go off script and will do things on the fly. That is a very Protoss-y thing. There's been great Protosses in the past, but there's been Protosses that have fallen because of it. And Neeb, somewhere in the middle, he does, like Todd said, he'll have a game plan, he'll have an idea, but if something is showing weakness, he will jump off and go into that. And that can be where Nerchio capitalizes because he is rock solid, known for his defense.
Right, exactly. And that's a good point that you bring up there. And it segues me on nicely to the fact that if you think 3 or 4 years back, Nerchio was the guy that in ZVP was very scary, but there was always that, oh, well, we can hit him with a timing and we'll just kill him early and things like that. That's not Nerchio anymore. No. Nerchio is a terror to any Protoss out there, so Neeb has to be careful.
I think Nerchio has been his best Nerchio this year. Maybe some of last year you could make that claim as well, but he's won championships in the past off the back of the fact that the rest of the scene wasn't as good as him. Now the scene is much better, but he himself is even in his best form. So it's really shaping up to be a very nice finals.
He's shown to stay the course. Gentlemen, our final thoughts before we get into our best of 7 finals?
Just what a treat. We've been going to game 5 with a lot of these series. This is a 7-game set. A lot of mutual respect between these two players, and Nerchio does not give respect to many people. He's very open about that. But for the fact that he says that Neeb is a worthy opponent means that this is going to be amazing.
Remember WCS Tours, Showtime versus Nerchio, amazing finals. I think that's what we can expect here, or something to this caliber. So I'm very excited for it. And you know what? I should just shut up and we should get started.
Well, there you go then. Let's get on with it. Ladies and gentlemen out there, we start the WCS Austin Grand Finals as we head over to Rotterdam and Nathanias for the commentary.
The time has come once again to crown a champion here in the World Championship Series circuit. Thank you, Austin. Good afternoon. I hope you're ready for one hell of a final. We are loaded in to game number 1 on Cactus Valley in the Northeast. The American Protoss player representing Ting in blue. He's Neeb.
Everybody's ready and excited to see these American Protoss in the Grand Finals once again, Nate. Back-to-back Grand Finals for that young man.
And he has to go through this man in the Southeast, the Red Zerg hailing from Poland, representing Euronics Gaming. He's Nerchio!
Even Neeb is addressing him as King Arthur, and that says a lot. Nerchio's incredibly good. These two guys, like Todd said, have quite a bit of history with each other, but I think there is one series, Nate, that stood out. There is one series that was all over Reddit, and that was that quarterfinals they had 4 months ago. WESG in China, quarterfinal matchup, Game 5, everything was close. Nerchio played one of the best games I've ever seen him play, and then he stacked all his Brood Lords. I'm sure he didn't forget about it. Lost a game that he should have never lost anymore. Probably a game that gave him quite a few sleepless nights. Well, he finally has a chance to redeem himself for that loss.
Yeah, this is such a big tournament final for both of these players. They are considered the top of the top in their respective regions as this probe continues to dance around blocking the natural. Neeb touted as one of, if not the best player in North America for the last year, the highest ranked WCS player in points last year, Kespa Cup champion. He is the king of NA. He is the player everyone looks to for inspiration in this region.
Now, there is one thing that I absolutely love that Nerchio does more than any other Zerg out there in this matchup, and that's that mass drop, right? That's a 6, 7, 8 Overlord, all morph them into Dropper Lords and just send a whole bunch of Roaches, Ravages, Hydras, sometimes even Lurkers into the Protoss space. But looking at the spawning positions here on Cactus Valley, I don't find it very likely, Nate, because it's much more likely that Neeb is going to go up to 3 bases there on the left side. And how are these Dropper Lords supposed to go? I have to go all the way via 12 o'clock, then into the main. So I think actually Nerchio is a little bit unfortunate, because if these spawns would have been on the other side of the map, it's much easier for Nerchio to fly into the main.
Yeah.
So that kind of saddens me, and I think it saddens Nerchio as well, because even though Nerchio is vocal about this matchup and he always says he's not very good at it, he doesn't like it, he has a lot of tricks up his sleeve.
He's still Nerchio, and he is still so damn good as that Stargate boots up at the same time as the third base for Nerchio. So the Adept makes its way across the map. I think one thing to note is that it's a direct path from the natural to the main base of Nerchio via air. But these two Lings are going to get in, Roddy. They may be able to spoil the plot.
Yep, and this is annoying as well because Neeb has his Adept on the other side of the map. So obviously he wants to be looking at this Adept. He wants to see if he can maybe pick off a drone. That's not going to be the case. And only now he's going to have a worry about these Lings. Did the Lings spot the Stargate? They did, right?
Yeah, it was by the ramp. He should be aware of it. Yeah, he knows. He knows.
Right.
He ran by it. It is finishing up as we speak. And I think Todd and you guys are all talking about it. The Oracle opening just makes sense for Protoss versus Zerg right now.
Yeah, I think there is 2 openings that we're mostly going to see in this best of 7, and that is the 1-gate Stargate. And I think every now and then you're going to see Neeb open up with the Archon drop. Obviously, there's multiple ways to do that, but at the end of the day, it comes down to a Dark Shrine and a Warp Prism. How many gates? Well, we'll see. Some people do it of 2 gates, some people do it of 3. 4 is the old school way, but has fallen out of fashion a little bit. But this is the opening that I think we're going to see at least 4 or 5, if not 6 times, just because the Oracle is incredibly good against any sort of Zerg all-in. And obviously, it's also nice to have some map presence, maybe pick off a couple of drones, secure your third base. There are too many reasons not to make an Oracle.
Yeah, the utility of the Oracle is always very nice to have, as it will fly into the main base of Nerchio, smack dab into that Spore Crawler. He's going to pull back. He gets just a single drone, loses a little bit of hit points, and retreats. These Adepts in the third base.
Perfect.
Not really any drones for them to kill.
Nope, and actually losing one of the Adepts. Good surround there by Nerchio. Perhaps getting ready for that Warcraft 4. It has to come one day, right, Nick? We used to surround units all the time over there. Now, this is a solid start for Nerchio, only losing a single drone. Sometimes Zergs get unlucky, and they actually have like 4 or 5 drones that are being transferred from one base to the next, and those drones are often exposed, but Nerchio shows that he's on the money so far, and really didn't take any damage yet.
Yep, uses the overcharge to defend the third base under construction from those Zerglings. The 2 Oracles are outside of the natural expansion.
Yeah, this is kind of risky though, because right now Nerchio has no units at all. He's making 12 Lings. Obviously, Neeb doesn't know what we know, because if he would know that, he would jump right in there. I still don't think he wants to jump right in that saturated mineral lane. So even though Nerchio played greedy, what he did very well is that he kept all the drones in the natural. So technically, Nerchio didn't have enough units to defend all 3 locations, but he didn't need to, Nate. He only needed to defend the one that actually had any drones. So that was a really cool play by Nerchio, showing us that you can be greedy, yet, you know, he can justify that greed.
He doesn't have to move them all over to that mineral line and open himself up that quickly. These Shades make their way towards the main. Okay, he's moving them in with the Oracles to help clean up the Zerglings that are going to go on top of these Adepts. The Queen step forward very quickly to try and grab them, and the Adepts send the Shades back out. They're running towards the main. The Oracles come back in, grab a few drones on the way out, and gets that teleport over towards the third base. So Neeb trying to bounce between the expansions of Nerchio. Not getting a crazy amount of worker kills here, but definitely stretching him thin. He is ahead 10 probes over Nerchio at the moment.
Yeah, he forced out quite a few units, and Roaches are kind of expensive units as well, but there are 9 drones on the production tab, so I don't hate this for Nerchio, but I also don't hate it for Neeb. If Neeb ends up losing a few more Adepts, which is going to be the case here in the middle of the map, now it starts to sting, but fortunately for Neeb, he does still have both Oracles, and as good as they are offensively, Nate, they're just as useful defensively, whether it comes down to Stasis Wards or Pulsar Beam.
And he does have the Phoenix as well.
Spire.
Push everything out. The Spire. What do you think about a Spire opening like this on 3 bases against a Protoss that already has a Stargate?
Well, I mean, that's obviously risky because if Neeb is going to spot this Spire anytime soon, then there is a good chance he's going to make 4, 5, 6 Phoenixes, and then I think Nerchio has to either cancel it or just not really make any mutas at all. Some Zergs will go absolutely crazy and make Corruptor muta, but I really think that Neeb is too good to lose to a build like Corruptor muta. Like, that only works if the Protoss messes up. It's risky, man. Nerchio's kind of rolling the dice here, but maybe he's looking at these spawning positions and he's like, man, I just don't want to play Roach Hydra here or Roach Hydra Lurker. I'm going to take a risk. I'm going to try to squeeze in a Spire, and I just hope that Neeb doesn't scout it, because there is a very good chance the moment that Twilight is done, that Neeb is going to research Charge. And, well, Zealots are awesome, Nate, but they don't fight mutas.
No, they can run really fast, but they cannot jump into the sky, as badass as that would be. So there is Charge, as you said, on the production tab, as well as the Templar Archives. Throws Revelation just reveals a single creep tumor here.
This is actually kind of risky. Neeb is probably wondering, like, where are your units? But at the same time, you don't want to overcommit. The last thing you ever want to do is throw away 2 Immortals right before you can get your Archons. But now Neeb is going to scout the main. He's like, wait a minute, something ain't right. Like, why do you have nothing?
He sees it. Okay, he knows about the Spire. It's done, but Nerchio still hasn't actually built anything off of it just yet.
And so now I really wonder, is it going to be...
Bait?
Yeah,
he gets another Stargate, and he starts Phoenix production.
Yeah, so maybe it's just indeed one big bait, and he's not going to make any mutas at all. He's just like, you know what, I know that you're going to make some cannons.
And
because
5 photon cannons,
yeah.
He's definitely forced a substantial reaction with that Spire.
That's actually pretty cool. And the multiple Phoenixes in this phase in the game. I love Phoenix, Nate, but they ain't that useful against the Zerg with 79 workers.
Yeah, the economy is definitely all there for Nerchio, so... Very interesting call with the Spire. Neeb kind of faking himself out a little bit. There are not any Mutalisks on the way. There's nothing coming to him like that. It's just Roaches on the way, that +1 melee, the Baneling Nest coming in soon. And look at this as his army goes towards the south side. Nerchio's right up there on the 3rd base.
Nerchio's just buying time because he knows he actually can't fight this army of Neeb right now, even though Nerchio has more supply and he has a lot of units on the way. If it's just a couple Roaches, there is no Baneling speed, there are no upgrades at all. I mean, other than Roach speed, but I'm talking about like a +1 missile or a +1 melee. Nerchio has none of that, so he needs to buy time, Nate, because Neeb could actually kill Nerchio.
Yeah, he has to get these Gateway repowered. The army very strong. He's going to morph in a few more Ravagers. There, that Phoenix flies over to the main base. Like, yeah, there's definitely a Stargate there. It's not doing anything, though. Picks up one of these Ravagers and starts to morph Banelings right in his face. This army of Nerchio very aggressively postured in front. He gets the Mothership Core.
That is very nice, but it didn't have that much energy. Here come the Zealots, though. These Zealots are, of course, very useful against all these Ravagers and Roaches. Kind of a bizarre fight. If I was Neeb, I'd just wait a little bit. He has 900 minerals in the bank. You don't want to take a fight. I don't like that warp in at all, Nate. All those units are super exposed. And suddenly, this is starting to look a little worrisome for our American Protoss.
I mean, he's got the Oracles and the Phoenix trying to pitch in as much as they can, but those Archons having to do all the heavy lifting without a lot to buffer for them. Stasis Trap caught a few of the Lings that were running towards the natural. Decent force field pushes away, but he's still got to just keep this 3rd base together. So far, he is holding on here, but that's still a lot from Nerchio in front.
Yeah, as long as he survives, it's going to be good for Neeb, because Neeb's army is going to be a lot better. But here go the Archons, and it's just those 2 Immortals that actually really haven't shot a whole lot in this fight. They've kind of just been derping around, but it seems like it's barely enough, even though that's more sentries than anything else. But Nerchio's reinforcements are not here yet. That was close, Nate. That was awfully close.
Door status held, Roddy. He does grab one of the Phoenix with the Corrosive Bile, and it's just more Roaches, more Ravagers, more Zerglings pouring across the map. A 6-high Templar get worked with another robotics facility. He's trying to get Archons and reestablish this defensive posture, but he doesn't have a Mothership Core to help assist here. He doesn't have a great position to fall back to.
Yeah, the Ravagers doing some very serious work, but a few more Archons are about to show up. These Oracles are super annoying, even though they don't have that much energy. They will be able to pick off a Ravager or 2. Some good force fields there by Neeb. And even though Neeb is still down in supply, as long as he keeps those Immortals alive.
The Immortal meat grinder now with the extra Archons showing up to help, and even these Phoenix just lifting as much as they can to assist. 2 of the Immortals knocked down, but he still has 2 left in the back, and those charged Zealots rip and tear into the Ravagers.
That's a great hold, and now Nerchio really is going to have to back off for a little bit. Don't forget, he doesn't have Baneling speed, so just making a couple of Banelings defensively is actually not really going to do it all. Nerchio's attack was awesome. He made it very close, but in the end, it was not close enough. And even though Neeb is still down in supply, it's safe to say that he has much stronger units, and he's got better upgrades.
Yeah, he's going to try to push in here. He doesn't have a whole lot to reinforce this with as far as Prism stuff goes, but the Zealots get right on in. The Banelings finish morphing and immediately detonate. How long can he stay out here like this? He's going to lose the Mothership Core. That means he cannot recall out of here.
Yeah, that's actually kind of risky. The Sport Crawler is doing some work as well against that Oracle. The Phoenix is still being annoying, but if I was Neeb, I'd run back towards my fort because he doesn't have a Warp Prism here or an Observer for that matter. I think one of these Immortals is going to fall.
Oh, he's got that Stasis Trap to retreat too. He's kind of hoping. Grabs a big chunk of Nerchio's army, and that is going to allow him to push this away just a little bit.
Yeah, Neeb should really take a chill pill for like a split second. He's doing great, but just get the Immortal count back up, get a couple Archons out there.
Slow down,
yep,
brother.
Get a few more Zealots. I'd love to see maybe a couple Zealots run towards the left side of the map, because Nerchio's actually attempting to take a 5th base. Neeb can definitely do something about it because Nerchio has no upgrades on his units.
Another Stasis Trap grabs a bit of a chunk of this Zerg army as some Corrosive Biles are thrown, trying to keep this army away. A lot of Roaches and a lot of Ravagers relying very heavily on this army composition as +3 attack is on the way for Neeb.
7 extra Overlords. I wonder what Nerchio is going to do with it as he's still pressuring this fort base, but the Archon count is pretty high. The cannons are helping out as well. There's no Photon Overcharge available, but these force fields should keep these Roaches and Ravagers at bay. But I must say, Nerchio is doing a good job in picking up those expensive units one by one. Nate, do you think he knows he doesn't have Bane speed?
I mean, it'd be kind of weird not realizing it because they're stuck behind his Roaches, right? They can't actually get up front all that easily since they're moving slower than everything else. The one thing that definitely sucks is the Biles are not only hitting the units, but since he's at that expansion, they're hitting the mineral lines. Well, he's slicing off a few of the probes from this position in the midst of all of this. Shout out to the Oracle. Okay, that's just build it right there. Yeah. Nothing unusual about that. But the Oracle really pitching in as well, being able to just float over this army, keeping tabs on everything. And it's probably they've killed a lot of the Ravagers with
Who needs Revelation if nothing shoots up, right, Nate?
Yeah.
Why revelate the army if you can just put it above it? But it seems like Neeb is going to sacrifice this fort base. Doesn't want to defend without his cannons there. He is finally going to harass a little bit on the left side, but Nerchio wouldn't be Nerchio if he somehow picked up on that. And actually has units. He should really kill the Nexus, and he does.
He makes sure to get it. The army is on the retreat. He did pull a substantial amount of his reinforcements towards the west side to clear those Zealots out.
Wow.
9 Immortals. Let's not forget, Kev, that Spire's still out there somewhere. Not that I would, not necessarily that he's going to make that switch, but that card is on the table for him at all times.
Yep, if he gets a little bit of a bank, Nate, I think that's an excellent call. Bane speed is on the way, by the way, and +1 missiles, while Neeb is already working with +3. These Immortals are quite exposed, but they are Immortals with +3, though.
And they're trying to blast through this army without a lot of Zealots to help deal with this. He's mostly firing on the Zerglings instead of the Roaches, and if those Banelings get up, Immortals are good, but clumped up, they will take that splash and lose their barriers. And the Photon Overcharge comes up on the pylon, but he's actually managed to kill most of the army on this retreat path back home. Nerchio overwhelming Neeb.
Yeah, Neeb wasn't ready for that. Now he's going to sandwich this army, and once again, the upgrades do really matter. A lot of these Roaches and Ravagers will get picked off very quickly if these Archons and Immortals were just allowed to shoot. But most of the Immortals went down. Neeb's going to try to retake this fort base. He will clean this up in the end, but Nate, you mentioned it. The Spire is still there, and how much NTR is there truly on this side?
He's still building Roaches. He hasn't made that switch yet, but you're right. The only thing he has, he did build a second Stargate earlier. I do believe that he still has that, but the Archon count really becomes the only anti-air that he has in his army right now if there's a snap decision made to make that play.
It's going to be even harder for Nerchio to attack this base because, I mean, that's just across the map, and Cactus Valley is a pretty long map. Yes, Nerchio is still ahead by 50 supply, but that doesn't necessarily mean he's just going to roll this base over. A lot of the units are in production. A lot of the units just popped. I actually think that if Neeb just keeps that base at 12 o'clock alive, the Oracle does finally fall. This is going to be a game-changing fight, Nate. Can Neeb keep this Nexus alive? Now, he's not even going to try.
He pulls everything over. He's like, all right, I'll take that right side base back again while my Zealots make their way to the expansion. And Nerchio pulls a good portion of his army back there as well, realizing, okay, I've got to go for this. And those Zealots just slice and dice those Lings.
Yeah, that's not a fair fight. The Lings do have +1, but the Zealots have +3. And yeah, the Lings want none of that. These Zealots starting to work on this hatchery. It's starting to run quite low.
Oh, my goodness gracious. Barely saves the hatchery with 52 health. at the end, still double pumping out those Immortals with the Ravagers and the Banelings to help deal with those Zealots, and all of that splash. Neeb is having a very difficult time reconstituting this army.
I like how Neeb sacrificed his base at 3 o'clock, then sacrificed the base at 12 and went back to 3 o'clock again. Nerchio's gonna put some pressure on this base, but this base is pretty much mined out. Killing it is obviously nice because you take away the gas income, but mineral-wise, there really wasn't that much left. The Ravager count is incredibly high, but it all comes down to the engagement. Can Neeb somehow get close enough to this Zerg army?
I mean, even with all of these Immortals, there's not an infinite number of force fields. The Banelings hitting from the back, get rid of the sentries, and now it's just the Immortals versus these Ravagers as they crash through. Zealot reinforcements being added into the mix to try and deal with this, but Neeb has so much of this to go through. Here comes the Mothership Core. Photon Overcharge being added into the mix. He has to keep the Immortals alive. Another one does fall.
Now, 2 Immortals do really live up to their name of being immortal, but they might eat a couple of these balls. No, not yet. Now the Phoenix is gonna help out. It's like, guys, I've got one. Take it out, and he will drop it. Gonna try to take one more. Obviously, Nerchio's doing a fantastic job in just slowing down the economy of the American Protoss. This is an awesome game to watch. Take a look at the units lost. How many Immortals died and how many probes died? Like 23 workers?
Immortals.
Wow. 16. How often do you see that, Nate?
That is a lot. With 17 Archons versus 125 Roaches and 48 Ravagers.
Now Nerchio's going to swing around again. He's going to try to apply some pressure to this base at 3 o'clock.
He can't just give this up. He has to defend this base.
Yeah, if you lose this base, you have no more income.
This is potentially going to be it with this fight. Immediately grabs one of the Archons, Photon Overcharge, tries to make a little bit of a buffer, but those Banelings are morphing. They do have speed. They will reach the front of the battle lines, and he's going to make this move in. A lot of the Biles going for those Immortals. They are able to step back just in the nick of time, but the Banelings get close to the probes. They're all very weak. The pylon on the right side will fall, and that's it. GG. Nerchio takes game number 1 here in our grand finals at WCS Austin.
In a very swarmy way with almost non-upgraded units, but he just kept rallying everything that he had across the map. Loved the Spire early on, even when he never used it. Neeb has to respect the Spire. He's always worried about Minas. Every Protoss is when you want to play Archon, Immortal, Zealot, you're like, oh my god, a Spire? Hold on, let's get 5 cannons, let's get a second Stargate. Fortunately, he didn't start +1 air weapons, but that happens as well sometimes. And then suddenly it was none of that. It's still quite bizarre how well Nerchio did in a lot of these fights when he had just almost no upgrades. It took forever to get +1 melee. It took 14 minutes to get Baneling speed. It took 14, 15 minutes until he had +1 missile attacks, but he just had so much more.
Amazing to think about the way he was able to bait Neeb into that extremely heavily anti-Mutalisk setup. The 5 photon cannons, as you mentioned, the Stargate, immediately getting out another Phoenix or 2, and he was just gearing up for that endless Roach Ravager push.
Yeah, there was this one moment as well where you said, like, isn't Neeb getting a little overeager here? Where he was basically standing in the natural of Nerchio, but he had no Warp Prism, no Observer. He really didn't have that many Zealots
and
left.
the Mothership Core was in front and just died. It had enough energy for a recall too, but he just...
Yeah, and let's not forget about that moment in the middle of the map when all the Immortals were incredibly exposed and Nerchio just jumped on it. How often do you see 0-0 Roaches and Ravagers run into 9 Immortals with +3? Well, if all the Archons are out of position and the Zealots are out of position as well, I've almost felt that was Nerchio's one chance, and, well, he capitalized on it.
And made the most of it that he could. Ladies and gentlemen, we are loaded into game number 2 of the grand finals here at WCS Austin. It'll be played out on Newkirk Precinct, spawning in the bottom left position, trailing 0-1. The American Protoss player. Give it up for Neeb.
Definitely didn't play a bad game number 1 there. A few mistakes and everything could be fixed here in game number 2, Nate.
Yep, his opponent winning right now 1-0. The Red Zerg player, he is Nerchio.
Nerchio's got to be quite pleased with how Cactus Valley went. I think considering the spawning positions, I don't think he loved them that much. But I also know for a fact that he's not the biggest fan of Newkirk City Precinct. While we were loading into this game, I also noticed that game number 7, if we get there, Nate.
If we get to game 7.
It's going to be played on Paladino. How often do you guys think these guys have played Paladino? How many games have they practiced on Paladino?
Lot. That game that Nerchio played versus Kelazar on that map, I was so shocked that no one vetoed it. It's it's one of the tougher ones. People don't get a lot of games on it. This final could get weird if we make it all the way there. but I don't mind.
No, I wouldn't mind either. I mean, Nerchio does often deliver. I think the finals he had against Showtime last year in Tours, I think it was one of my favorite finals of the year. It was just fantastic, especially the first game, the second game. They were just an absolute joy to watch. And so far, I think this was a great start. I really enjoyed that game on Cactus. It was incredibly action-packed. It was a little, it felt a little odd, but in the end, it made sense what Nerchio was doing.
I think that's one of those games where you win that and you're like, okay, well, you know, the first attack really didn't work. The counterattack didn't really work. It was very scrappy, very back and forth. Feeling those games, winning those games has to feel so damn good. Just being able to come out on top of a situation where things didn't go as expected, things didn't go as planned, and you had to have your wits about you and make a big play. So definitely a big confidence boost to start things off for Nerchio, but Neeb really didn't play that bad either. Cactus Valley has a lot of those tough positions to work around. Having to fight with your Nexus as part of your wall is very, very uncomfortable at all times.
Especially the Immortals, just a couple of times they were not really participating in the battle. They were kind of derping around in the back. Because you don't want to expose them, but obviously you want to make sure that they actually do participate. Now, Nate, the journey for these two guys obviously did not start this weekend. They both competed in Challenger that starts online. And what's interesting is that I casted multiple games of Nerchio in his run during WCS Europe Challenger, and he 12-pooled a lot. He kept 12-pooling against Protoss, sometimes with success in general. Most of the time it was about even, if not he was behind. I'm quite interested to see that he hasn't done it a single time so far this tournament. At least in the games that I've seen.
Yeah, he's been sticking to a very macro-focused sort of style. At least when I look at the games he's played versus Terran, it's been a lot of the same thing. I wonder if that means we'll see that Roach Ravager, you know, with the Ling support style in this game again. That sort of seems to be what Nerchio's been favoring, just sticking to something.
Nerchio is also the type of guy that will sell a mind game multiple times, and by the time that as a Protoss player, you were like, all right, I'm not going to fall for it anymore.
I won't build a second Stargate 5 cannons. It's like, okay, well, here's the mutas.
I'll never forget that there was a time where like the early Roach Ravager Ling all-in was very possible, and whenever they open up with this pool and then a gas, you really had to respect it, and certain Protoss players started to play quite safe. Nerchio opened up like that 3 games in a row against Showtime. Showtime kept being safe. The 4th time, Showtime didn't believe in it anymore, and obviously that's when it happened on that weird map with I forgot the name of it, but it was very popular in the Legacy of the Void beta. I'll never forget. So there's a good chance you'll see Nerchio multiple times throughout this series try to sell the idea of a muta switch, not do it, but then suddenly in game 4 or 5, he will do it.
Yep, just another sign of an incredibly intelligent player. The way that he approaches the game is something to be marveled at. The Oracle goes to the 3rd. There's nothing there. Queens show up already ready to push it back as the Roach Warren begins and a few more drones pop out. Phoenix will clear things out, but Roddy, straight to Resonating Glaives. Is this the big Adept build by Neeb today?
I mean, this is kind of interesting because it's a single Stargate. It's 3-gated Adept. I just wonder what's going to be after this. Is it going to go for another Stargate? Is it just going to be robotics facilities? This is something that I haven't seen that much lately. Most of the time, it is just what we saw in Cactus Valley, a couple of Adepts without Resonating Glaives. But this could also be Neeb trying to keep Nerchio honest, be like, hey, I saw what you did last game. No Banes, very late Roaches against my Adepts. You're showing no respect at all. You know what? Next time you try to defend with just Zerglings, I'm going to have Resonating Glaives. So he's just going to try to switch it up. But this time, Nerchio's making 6 Roaches quite early on. I'm just curious to see what Neeb is going to do after this, Nate.
Yeah, that's a very good point to bring up. The Mothership Core is finally coming out, which will help deal with these counterattacks. Speaking of which, he's at the 3rd Nexus. The Adepts kind of trying to tuck themselves in, but the Zerglings do have enough surface area to pick both of them off.
Yeah, there is a Mothership Core though, so he could technically drop a Photon Overcharge and keep this Nexus safe. He's also going to bring the Oracle. Wow, what? Why did he activate Bel'shir? I mean, he did have a lot of energy, I guess. But I'm a tiny bit surprised that he decided to do for it. The Adept timing has been delayed a little bit, and I don't think he's going to let that one finish up with all the Roaches there. Still just trying to find an opening.
Good control, blocking the pathing of these Adepts, allowing Nerchio's drones to continue to run around and not too vulnerable, and not really getting a lot of kills, not getting a lot of damage done with this early Adept build. Even though he has Resonating Glaives, he can't make much of it, not yet.
But there has been some indirect damage. He's been forcing out a lot of units. He's been causing some lost mining time for Nerchio. If you take a look at the drone count, it's currently at 54. So this is not terrible, but obviously you do want to get something out of your Adepts, because just keeping these Adepts as a main part of your army and then eventually fight against all the Roaches, that's not why you made them. I think he's going to let a couple finish up, and that's exactly what he did. How many Roaches, or excuse me, how many Adepts did finish up? Just 2. So he's always going for the 2 Adept hit squad in the back of the natural. And he's picking off 5-6 more drones, Nate. This is really starting to add up.
He's really just playing around with his positioning in an extremely dangerous way. He sends a big wave of Adepts inside of the main base, looking for that drone line. Notice how the Queens immediately go to body block these Adepts and keep them away. Good transfuse, but the second Queen will still die. Grabs a few drones, teleports the way out. Roaches are in position, though, able to grab 1 or 2 of these Adepts on the way out.
So what I'm worried about right now is the counterattack. There's a good chance that Nerchio says, like, all right, you've killed my drones, that's fine, but you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna make nothing but roaches and zerglings, maybe a couple ravages eventually. I'm gonna run across the map. Nate, you know I love my resonating glaives, but this is something I struggle with a lot. If you don't have TTs, in my case, I pretty much always die to this counterattack, because look at the army, it's massive for Nerchio.
This is huge. 4 Ravagers on the way. He's cranking out the Zerglings, and there are so many roaches crossing the field. He starts charge. His Templar Archives is finishing, but time is what he needs to build the forces necessary to defend this.
It's a good start, I think. A good photon overcharge there as well. It's going to be able to push out a lot of damage. I really like this defense so far from Neeb. The Ravagers will show up. They were a little bit late to the party. A lot of dead roaches already, but both finals are going to fall, and it's all about the Immortals, Nate. Can Neeb keep his Immortals alive?
The first one gets caught on the right side. Left one is stuck, completely surrounded as the sentries are destroyed as well. And this third base completely forfeit as the rest of the Zerglings run in. The probes on the way out. He did get a couple more sentries to try and defend against this back in the natural, but if he steps down this ramp, he has to be so careful that he doesn't get caught by the reinforcements.
Yep, I would have loved to see a Void Ray during all of this. I really think that could have helped out quite a bit against all these roaches, because then you can just defend the links with Adepts. I must say, Neeb is doing a really good job, though. He's still up in workers, but I do think he's going to lose the Nexus, but it's going to be close, Nate.
And he's getting very close to picking it off, and he's going to be able to grab it. Third base destroyed, and Neeb, he grabs one roach, like, okay, we got the straggler.
Phoenix is like, I'm no Void Ray, but...
Tickle him to death, sentries.
I got one.
So Charge is finishing up. That Spire is on the way. That interesting Spire. Storm is going to be researched here. So he wants to play with the High Templars a bit more than just the Archons. And a Warp Prism, right? Warp Prism with Charge Zealots. There's a lot that you can do here. It's going to be one of the ways that he can claw his way back through this. Let's keep in mind, there's not a 4th base for Nerchio, so he's not like he's got some ridiculously blown up economy. Neeb, on 3 bases, can play ball.
Yep. I was a little bit surprised that Nerchio showed small signs of impatience there. He just jumped with his roaches at first, while the Ravagers were late. If the Ravagers were there a lot faster, I think he could have taken care of those pylons a lot quicker. And obviously, Photon Overcharge, I mean, that's the majority of the DPS of the Protoss army at that point. So I really think that those pylons did a little bit too much. In the end, it was still all right. The Spire does get spotted by these Adepts, and that's obviously big. Let's see how Neeb decides to react. Just a Phoenix for now.
Needs to be very careful with how much he wants to commit to dealing with this, because it's still just roaches, Kev. He's still just building roaches, +2 melee for those Zerglings, and we can see the Baneling Nest is coming in. So this could still end up being basically the same human composition that was in the last game, and because of that, obviously it's gonna be very important that he doesn't pretend or be baited into thinking that it is just mutas.
Yep, but there is one big difference between this game and the previous game, and that is that this time we do have Storm. I think maybe perhaps a lot of people are wondering, why didn't he get Storm last game? I mean, you need the money for that, you need the economy. He kept losing his 4th base, and sometimes it's honestly better to just get 2 or 3 Archons rather than rely on 1 or 2 Storms, but then have nothing else. This time Neeb said, no, I am convinced that I can get enough timeout for my High Templars. I can get a couple Storms while keeping my Immortals safe, and I feel Storm is all I need. And it's hard to disagree when you look at the state of this game at the moment.
Yep, that is one way that will definitely be able to help deal with this mass of forces that are going to be coming his way, especially if those Banelings clump up. Really anything for that matter, clumping up too much. Having the Prism that he didn't have last game to do the harass with, because he was just warping in random pylons across Cactus Valley, and that did not help him too much, those Ravagers. That's a lot.
Yep, and obviously it's going to be hard to get close to those Ravagers. In general, Zealots are fantastic if they can actually get on top of the Ravager, but you have to worry about the Bane. If Zealots get too ahead of themselves and they run headfirst into Banelings, I know the animation of Legacy of the Void said they can do that, but Nate, let me tell you, they can't.
Whoever pressed the A move in the Legacy of the Void cinematic really should have thought more about those Banelings, Rob.
Yeah. It's like, yeah, that Zealot look really badass, but whenever I do it, it's 7 Zealots into 2 Banes and they all die. Nerchio's gonna roll forward. It's important to keep your High Templar safe.
Yeah, he drops a lot of the Storms. The Banelings are mostly cleared out. He has a few behind the Ravagers still. A lot of the Zealots are dead, though, and the Storms continue to rain down the Immortals behind the cover of the Photon Overcharge with these solid force fields. With the first Immortal on the left, looks like it's gonna finally fall. He's got the Biles hitting. The Mothership Core almost clears that up, but the Phoenix come in, and they throw that last bit of an assist.
Wow.
He tries to focus fire down the last 2 weak Immortals, and he will not get both of them.
That's so close there in the end. These Immortals were so exposed. They were quite low on HP. But in the end, these Phoenixes were like, well, guys, we actually have some energy. We can do some of the lifting. And these Immortals are like, yeah, it's about time. So they actually all lived. The overcharge helped out a lot there as well. And I often feel the moment you get Storm against this ground army, there's this one push that's very scary. That's always going to be hard because the Zerg will have overwhelming numbers. From this point on, normally it should be easier for Neeb.
He's got a very nice army composition to work with. He's getting another robotics facility. He's continuing to crank out the Immortals. +3 attack is on the way. And I like that. Now he's said to himself, all right, well, he'll at least get 1 photon cannon. He has to, of course, keep in mind that that Spire is still on the map. Infestation Pit on the way, though. And I love this. The lack of Hydralisk usage at all is just, okay, Phoenix is going to pick up, kill random Ravagers.
He got 1. A little bit of energy was burned. You can still use these Phoenixes to be annoying as well. It may seem like you cannot do a lot of harass with the Phoenix, but if you have 3 Phoenixes that all have 150 energy, you can technically kill like 8 or 9 drones. Yeah. So that's a really pretty big deal. It's going to take a while, but if there is 0 NTR anywhere, why not?
So he starts up the Hive and 3 Infestors, getting himself ready to use a couple of Fungals perhaps with this army and lock down these Immortals for a big engagement with a lot of corrosive Biles later on.
Yeah, Neeb is a pretty patient Protoss in general, even though, you know, on Cactus Valley he was aggressive from time to time, so maybe that actually scared him for the rest of the series. I think Nerchio realizes that maxing out on Ling Bane Ravager is just not going to do it anymore, because he's going to eat Storms left and right. 2 Banelings will roar into the mineral line, and they get 8 probes in the end.
Not bad.
1 actually did all the heavy lifting, 1 got 7, the other one just got 1. But I think that Nerchio right now has 1 plan, and that is Brood Lords. He wants to buy time, he wants to survive till Brood Lords. So obviously every now and then he's going to pretend like he wants to be aggressive, but there's no way he really wants to commit with his army. He just wants to be like, hey Neeb, if I were you, I'd stay a little back on your side of the map because I've got a lot of Ravagers and Banes, because, you know, but actually he doesn't. He just wants to buy time for Brood Lords.
Just wants to get time to get that Spire up to the Greater Spire and hold on to that 4th base in the northeast. The War Prism's going to land there now as the Hive finishes up, and a big Warping of Zealots does get canceled as he realizes, okay, he's got to step back just for a bit now.
It's still scary to step on creep, and I was taking a look at the production tab. There's not a single observer currently for Neeb. He is producing one though, and it's almost out. He's even on double robo, so it's kind of weird. He doesn't have a single ops. But there you go. But this is going to slow him down. Whoa, Viper is being used. Okay.
Neural Parasite as well. Okay.
I mean, once upon a time, Idra said that Immortals are great units, especially if they, you know, Roach Immortal is a pretty good composition. But I
don't play Roach Immortal that often. I imagine it's quite strong.
It's pretty good against Stalkers, but there are not that many of them. Or maybe Nerchio is going to try to take over a couple of these Archons. I mean, Neural Parasite is a great spell. And maybe it just feels like he wasn't going to get the time for Brood Lords. Once again, Neeb is kind of playing the guessing game wrong.
Ooh.
I mean, I can't blame him, though. Normally, we'd say, like, oh, this is a great play. He's getting a Fleet Beacon and extra Stargates because he has to worry about Brood Lords. He's so good, man. He's getting ready before the Brood Lords are even there, and that's true. But that's actually not what he has to worry about, and that's really weird.
Yeah. Brood Lords are not going to be coming out. He's getting his Mothership, big Zealot Warping inside of the main base. He is making his way towards carriers, though.
Yeah, that's good.
So he's turning the clock back on Nerchio to the point where it's going to be now about doing something about the fact that he will have, you know, the Golden Armada on the way, that very difficult to stop army composition that Protoss can hit. And the Zealots doing great work against the Lings. The Banelings will show up to clean him out. But big fight here. Oh, gets the money fungal on a lot of the Immortals. Those Biles crashing down.
And now you got to be careful. Another fungal connecting with a couple of these Immortals. 3 more will go down. The Storms did quite a bit of damage as well, though. Meanwhile, these Zealots, right now, it's Neeb the one who's going to buy time. He's like, whoa, okay, I just lost quite a few Immortals. Let's buy some time with my Zealots. I'm going to get carriers out. Carriers are fantastic, but having 2 carriers often doesn't change the game. 2 carriers and a Mothership, that's where things are starting to be like, all right, you really got to respect this. The moment it's 5 or 6 carriers, that's when you truly have to start getting very worried as a Zerg.
And you need to be careful about those support units because Let's not forget that with the number of infestors on the field, he does have Neural Parasite. He has the option to steal him if he wants to try.
That was so cute. This little blinding cloud is like, hey, don't go there.
This is my spot, and he's going to clean this base up. 2 carriers finishing up now. The third one just underway. Adrenal glands coming in. And trying to come in here and get a little bit of a fight here. I mean, the mothership is ready to rock and roll, so wants to try and get that battle. War Prism still sharking around the main base.
You know what's also a big deal is that there are no upgrades yet for these carriers. No Graviton Catapult and no +1 air weapons. Carriers are great, guys. I know I'm a Protoss player, but without any of those upgrades, Nate,
You definitely want, at the very least, Graviton Catapult so they can get those interceptors out faster.
yeah, without it, it's a very sad-looking unit. It's like, peel,
It's just,
peel.
you know, it's like, oh yeah, just one out.
It's like a mosquito.
Yeah.
And once you have the upgrade, it goes to a swarm.
Yeah, becomes the Protoss Swarm. Hopefully he will realize that for this next fight. The Revelation tag, you gotta be so cautious about those infestors. The Corruptors are gonna be able to shut down this Warp Prism though, denying this big Warp in the main base.
And it has to be a mistake, because the upgrade is still cheap, but it's a game-changing upgrade. Carriers without an upgrade are really not very impressive. There are a lot of High Templars though. Good job there by Nerchio, just splitting up a few units. He did take some damage of these storms, but he got 2 High Templars, and that's still 300 gas.
Yep, I'm still concerned. Still think that such a crazy thing that can happen. That Graviton Catapult that you mentioned, he needs that upgrade. He really, really needs that upgrade for his carriers. Now that he's getting up to a crazy amount, okay, +1 ship weapons is going to begin for the Protoss.
Air weapons, Nate.
Air weapons.
Gosh, how
They are
terrifying.
ships. They are ships, Roddy.
I'm teasing you, Nate.
But you're right. It is just air weapons. If it can fly, it uses air weapons.
I know. I was just teasing you, Nate. Staring by us. It's okay. Let it shine.
Okay.
Couple of links connect with these High Templars.
2 High Templar.
At the same time, Nerchio's being annoying as well with links. I really feel without that upgrade, and especially if +1 air weapons ain't done yet, if Nerchio would just free up a little bit of supply and he would go in with, let's say, 14 Corruptors, I think he can win the game. I think he can wipe out that army.
Yep, I completely agree. It's such a crucial, important upgrade to have when you have this many. I know we keep talking about it, but it's like
important.
not having stim for your carriers. You need that. That is a big deal, especially now that most of his army is carriers.
And it's such a cheap upgrade as well. It's like there is no way
It's
that
like 150 researches in like a minute.
Yeah, the research is very fast. It's kind of almost an unnecessary upgrade, I feel. It's like, well, this is not really a decision.
Well, it's like getting combat shields. You don't make that choice.
Yeah.
It's like
nobody's ever done like, what should I get?
I think the 45 hit point Marines are a lot better. I think the carriers that shoot very slowly are better.
Couple of Phoenix still in the front as well. Don't forget there is Neural, so he has to be careful about that too. Here is that first Fungal. How high is the Corruptor count? It's currently at 6. That's not really high enough.
Yeah.
I mean, even the slow carriers are going to have a good day against just 5 or 6 Corruptors. Another decent Fungal there.
Yeah, he's getting ready to move in, but the Storm's pushed back, gets another Revelation, being very mindful of the potential.
Got that upgrade.
Ooh, nice feedback on the Infestor.
He does have good
He's not going to
armor.
realize it until he loses all his carriers.
Yeah.
Until
Well-
he like loses a fight, he's like, oh, why did I lose that? Oh, I don't have this upgrade.
Worst case scenario, now he should see it. He's like, okay, that's actually...
The interceptors are coming out really slowly, Neeb.
Come on there. That should ring a bell or two. Peel, peel, peel. This is just sad. He should pay attention and he should notice. Okay, there
Okay,
we
he
go.
started it. Okay, he realized it. Yeah, there's the chrono too. He's like, yeah, I need that upgrade. He's like, why do these things shoot so slow?
And during all of that, he did pick up 15 drones. Meanwhile,
Oh,
Nerchio's
he's
still
stormed.
being annoying. But Nerchio's actually really broke. He's been losing a lot of units just here and there to a couple of these storms, a couple of feedbacks, and suddenly his supply is dwindling, and Nerchio is broke as a joke.
There's just so many carriers, and the storms and the feedbacks on the infestors have been so good. He can't get close enough to even try that neural parasite. Now he gets tagged again. Is he going to be able to make the dream come true? Okay, he abducts the mothership. Is he going to be able to focus it down? 2 neural parasites. Assimilation successful on the carriers, but is there too much here? Their corruptor count is so low. He's fighting back, and Nerchio taps out. GG.
Just a little too rich there in the end. Neeb's army, despite the fact that he didn't have the most important upgrade, it didn't matter, Nate. So many storms were available. He had so much HP on that army. Still had a couple of immortals on the ground as well. And just the build-up to that fight was just heavily in favor of Neeb. He was getting good trades. He picked up a couple of those expensive units, and he was a lot richer.
Yeah, just thinking about the aggression in that mid-game phase, there was so much thrown at each other by both players. The money to build up a bank to handle that army just wasn't available to get the number of forces off of those original 4 bases, the 5th that he was getting, the 6th he was trying to get. He didn't have enough money to put together a defense that could stop it. And to Neeb's credit, he got a lot of very good revelations, a lot of amazing feedbacks, and beautiful storms over those infestors.
Yeah, and let's not forget about the early mid-game. That was a fantastic hold. There's a lot of Protoss players who would have just fell there, would have tried to do whatever they could to keep that one Nexus alive, and then just end up losing a few too many probes, and then you're just too far behind. Neeb did ended up losing the Nexus, but he saved the majority of his workers, and he saved a couple of the Immortals as well. And then against the next push, well, he just had barely enough. He had Photon Overcharge. This time he did Ghost Storm, and well, it was quite worth it, Nate.
Yeah, the Storm helped a lot with defending those attacks. Those basically very similar pushes to what we saw on Cactus Valley. So Neeb making the necessary adjustments in the way that he's setting himself up to deal with this. And some cheeky lobby banter going on. Nerchio congratulating Neeb on his excellent carrier micro.
And then he made a very angry emoji. The steaming one.
Nerchio knows his StarCraft emoji a little too well.
Yeah. I think it's just a matter of time before we see the poop emoji being brought out again.
Yeah. Big thanks to everybody in the crowd, everyone coming in to cheer. Some person had a sign said, "Free the Leviathan," that has been targeted by these Void Rays on our break screen all weekend long.
Yeah, it's really cool here in Austin. You talk with the fans, and they've come from all over the place. I mean, people coming from Tennessee, people coming from Nashville. Like, that's some serious dedication, Nate. That's some real passion right there.
Yeah, I met a super cool guy from Montana. I'm like, they do video games up in Montana. Nice, nice. We are loaded into game number 3. It's Abyssal Reef. And in the top left position, your American Protoss hero. He's Neeb.
Looks pretty calm and relieved after that game on Newkirk. And I think we're getting ready, Nate, for a very exciting close final.
Yeah, he gets back in the saddle against this gentleman in the southeast. The red Zerg player tied 1-1. He's Nerchio.
If Nerchio ain't one of the most consistent StarCraft players of all time, then I don't know who he is. This guy's been around since the very early days of just grinding online cups. When I was sitting in the ESL office in 2010, you know, like doing a Go for StarCraft 2 on a Sunday, Nerchio was already playing in them, and you're talking about like 6-7 years ago, often making it to the final, duking it out with Stefano back then. So many pros over the years have come and gone, have been successful, rise and fall. Nerchio has just always been there. There was a time in Heart of the Swarm where I would never say that he totally fell off, but he obviously wasn't really pouring his heart and soul into it. He just wasn't feeling the game like he was in Wings of Liberty. But the moment that Legacy of the Void was announced, he went for it again, went all out, and well, it didn't take very long until we saw the Nerchio that once upon a time won a Home Story Cup and now started winning DreamHack as well.
The options that you have, especially in the post 3.8 era, since the big patch in November, have been greatly expanded upon. The utility, the Infestor, the buffs that have gone into the Corruptor, as well as just Legacy of the Void in general, that faster pace, the abilities of the Ravager and all that jazz have really given you so many dynamic options for every race to work with. And I think one of the things that we classified Neeb as being known for was his adept play. Lots of adept, mass adept. We've seen him win a big series off the back of making nothing but adepts. That's not what this series has been either. He's been bringing a lot of different variety into his compositions. The charge lot of Mortal Archon, I think that's one of the most fun armies to watch battle because it's just so much explosion, so many powerful units. Such a badass feeling when Archons just rip all those Zerglings apart.
And the openings are very different. We've had 2 games so far, and as a Terran player, maybe if you're not that interested in the matchup, you're like, God, is there ever anything else other than Adept Stargate? But both openings were very different. First game is just an Adept into a Stargate, 2 more gateways, and it's some Adept pressure, but no Resonating Glaives. The Resonating Glaives changes everything and forces a completely different reaction out of your opponent. Nerchio was on the money, and I still love that Roach counterattack that we saw on Newkirk. I really love it. I appreciate it. I think it was the right call. I just think he got a little over-eager in the very beginning before the Ravagers showed up, and I think that's why he lost a few too many Roaches to those force fields and the Immortals that were still very well protected at that point. But I still like the call that Nerchio made. You know, Nate, sometimes you shouldn't be too result-oriented. I think the call was right. I think the execution could have just been a tiny bit better.
I'll have to see what he can get done this game. His Adepts doing a nice little bit of poking here outside towards the quote-unquote third base, but of course, Nerchio did take that as his first expansion, and the Oracle begins to be built, Kev. So he's going to get that across the map, try to do some damage. I think the utility of the Oracle is insanely valuable, especially in this metagame, the way that you use it versus Terrans, but also this series, we've seen it. Even in Cactus Valley, those 2 Oracles that he had did an insane amount of heavy lifting for him.
Yep, and actually picked off quite a few of those Ravagers as well. I mean, Ravagers are light units, so they actually do crazy damage against them. I like how Nerchio's getting the spores without even scouting the Stargate. He knows Neeb, and he knows the majority of high-level Protoss players. I don't think he saw the Stargate. No, he didn't, but he just knows. The only thing he has to be careful of is because he took the other hatchery first, that he doesn't send too many drones back and forth between the bases, because there is a good chance that if the Oracle shows up here in the middle, that he may be able to find a couple of these exposed drones that are being sent from the third base towards the natural.
Yeah, you're looking for the transferred workers to get those pickoffs, but nothing to be found just yet. Quite a few Zerglings being built by Nerchio, though. He's got a good few, 20 or more on the way.
Yeah, I think this time he threw it, well, he sees the Adepts move, and these are once again Adepts without resonating glaives, so this is a lot more similar to what we saw in game number 1. Neeb's gonna have to be very careful about how he shades. Nerchio wants to hide the links. He wants to tell him, no, it's okay, you should let this shade finish off, but there's no way that Neeb is gonna do that. The only way that Neeb can ever fight all these links without glaives is if the Oracles are above them and actually helping out the Adepts.
Yep, and of course that's a very difficult thing to do when the Queens are there also trying to push back the Oracles. And Neeb's gonna let that shade finish at the third base. A couple of these Adepts naturally find their way between a few mineral patches, but not gonna get a whole lot here. A few Lings, just 2 drones, and all of the Adepts dead for Neeb.
This is one of these pushes where when it first came out, every Protoss was like, oh my god, you know, we found something that's so awesome, because they're all ready for Resonating Glaives, but they ain't ready for this timing. And for a week or 2, this was doing absolutely fantastic. But the Zergs adapt to it all really fast, and now suddenly, you know, most of the time it's about even. If that's even something you can hope for as a Protoss, because often it goes a lot worse than that. You just kind of sacrifice your Adepts, and you really don't get that much return of investment.
I do like this. He's got the Zerglings running over towards the third, gets 3 probes, so it's an overcharge with a few Adepts in the Mothership Core. Are going to be able to push that away. Resonating Glaives is coming in, but we have the Hydralisk Den and the 4th base under construction for Nerchio.
Yeah, that's the first Hydra Den I think we've seen throughout this entire series. Yeah. Nerchio does love Hydra's Bane in general on this matchup. He also loves, on this map. He also loves Lurkers on Abyssal. I must say, most of the time whenever I see him with Lurkers though, he doesn't end up winning on this map, that is. I mean, in general, he's a fantastic Lurker player, don't get me wrong. But I've seen him try multiple times where, and often I even felt that if he just messes Hydra Ravager now, I think he might be able to win. Yeah, Neeb is actually just gonna mass Adapt. He's not mining as much gas.
He didn't take the gas, it was natural. Like, he built the geysers, but he didn't actually jump on top of them yet.
But I mean, this is something that I like if the Baneling count is very low, if it's just Zerglings. Was there a Roach One in this game?
No, he only has access to Ling's Hydralisks.
Well, then it can actually be very good, but it has to hit very fast because the first 9 Hydras are on the way already. That is a fantastic scout.
Little cheeky Carbot Ling makes his way into the main base and sees everything. Roachhorn immediately begins 2 evolution chambers. Banelings under construction.
Oh, that's awesome.
Upgrade is coming in as well. He is prepared. He is getting ready to deal with this mass Adept attack.
Well, it's still going to take a little while. Nerchio knows that every second that goes by is a very good second for him, but he needs to get as many units out as possible. Getting a couple of Banelings is nice, but these Banes won't have speed. So Neeb is going to start working on this 4th hatch, but just killing the 4th hatch is most of the time not enough, because the longer it goes, the more these Adepts will fall off if these Bane numbers go higher, and especially if the Roach numbers climb up. Hydras are good against Adepts, but Adepts are also very good against Hydras. It truly comes down to the engagement and the numbers.
Oh, God. Okay, I'm not sure how crazy you wanted to get in there. 2 Adepts are going to go to the mineral lines behind the natural expansion. Baneling with the Queen there, and a few Zerglings to deal with it. He's trying to focus on this 4th base. In the meantime, the Banelings are coming up on the Adepts. The splits are not there. Amazing Baneling detonations all over Neeb's Adepts.
Yep, and that's all that Nerchio needed, and he actually keeps that 4th base alive, right? Or am I wrong? Wow, that 4th is still alive. That is so massive. The Adepts are going to try to fight these Hydras, but the Adepts don't have the right numbers, nor do they have the right engagement. Now the Lings show up as well, and Nerchio just smashed this attack, mostly because of that one incredibly happy Zergling that scouted all the gates, Nate.
Yeah, he was aware of everything right before it happened, and now he's getting ready for the counterattack. Baneling speeds on the way, 7 Banelings being produced, 11 Banelings now. And Neeb has those 3 bases, but what's the follow-up here? How does he deal with this many Banelings?
That one Zergling deserves a huge treat.
Yeah.
It's like a puppy that did a good trick.
Just
It's like,
give-
oh, who's a good boy? You're a good boy.
Give him the biggest bone that you've got. He earned it.
Who scouted all these gateways? And that Ling is like, it was me. Super happy Ling. That's awesome. Nerchio's in a great position
It's
now.
little things like that that decide these big championships, because
Yeah.
otherwise, if he thinks it's anything else, then those adepts swarm in. There's not a bunch of Banelings, and he gets wrecked.
Yep, if he doesn't see that, he doesn't have the Banes, he doesn't have those evil chambers on the high ground that deny those adepts, and the adepts just shade in. The Hydra count on that moment is still too low, and from that point, it's the beginning of the end. How many ZVPs haven't we seen where the Zerg just isn't ready, and then everybody complains about adepts because all you see is adepts bouncing from base to base?
Well, we'll still complain about adepts, Roddy. That's what we do. But you're right. That information is crucial. Second robotics facility and robotics bay are on the way, going into disruptors. Try to deal with this, perhaps?
Both actually would work. I mean, disruptors are a great comeback unit, don't get me wrong, but I feel disruptors can be too exposed in this scenario.
Oh,
These adepts
God.
are going to get sandwiched. Nerchio once again having a fantastic engagement.
Just completely surrounding Neeb's army in this position, trying to run away. Shades back into the Hydras. Everything completely eviscerated. GG, Nerchio goes up 2-1.
How did that Ling actually get into the main base? It wasn't a drop alert, it just ran by, right?
I mean, you see a cute dog at your front door sometimes, you just gotta give it a treat. And
I'll let it in. I'll pet it.
yeah, exactly. Exactly. And Ling just somehow got it. I mean, obviously, he must not have had something there. The mothership core maybe was out of position towards the third base because that's where the run-bys were going earlier on. So, not much else there. Let's hear what the boys at the desk have to say about the series so far.
Thank you very much, Nathanius. Of course, it's 2-1 at the moment, going over to Nerchio. And it feels a bit more mid-game focused for Nerchio compared to, say, what we saw from him in Katowice against Protoss, where he was pushing it to the very late game. So it feels like he doesn't want to really go into those stages against Neeb, similar to Game 2, did die after Neeb was able to get there.
Yeah, a lot of emphasis on that mid-game is playing to Nerchio's strengths. He has a lot of good multitasking in those battles, able to defend back at home when kind of a couple of depths shade off and go into a mineral line. He's able to mitigate those losses. But he's just been mauling Neeb up and down. Game number 1 was a back-and-forth affair.
Yep.
3 upgrade advantage, not enough for Neeb, but still a good fight there. Game 2, of course, going to that late game. But I do want to just real quickly before we get Todd's thoughts say that I've been liking, too, that it's been playing out where Neeb makes a choice, it gets scouted, and Nerchio is able to capitalize on it. Look for that narrative to develop, because if that's getting shut down, or Neeb stays on top of scouting, like seeing that Spire, he seems to be the one that's able to capitalize a little bit better.
Yeah, not sure. He has voiced concerns about having a little bit more trouble nowadays with Protoss than before. He also has a very active Twitter account on which he elaborates a little bit more on that and the struggles of the late game versus Protoss. So I'm not too surprised to see him trying to be active before that, trying to play more of a aggressive, scrappy style with a lot of lower tier units, which paid off in 2 of those games. I mean, even though in the last game he went back to basic and more the current meta, Hydralist, Banelings. Before that, he was a lot of Ravagers, and I gotta say I'm very impressed with Neeb though, that game 1 and game 2, like he won some of the fights that I didn't think he was particularly supposed to win, so he's definitely in this and it's far from over. It might be 2-1, but it's not like Nerchio has crazy momentum and he's gonna crush this, in my opinion.
Yeah, you're saying it's far from over and he's still in it. Is there drastic changes that Neeb needs to change, or just kind of small tweaks here and there?
No, I mean, I agree with everything Todd said. It was like, even though he was down like 80 supply at times in that first game, he was still the one coming out on top in terms of micro. He was just doing it with a lot less. So drastic changes? No, I don't think so.
Maybe move out a bit less, because he moved out many times with like really small army when he thought he could counterattack it.
Seems
and
Nerchio wants to attack, so maybe just defend the
Yeah.
attacks and win that way, sure.
Seems to have gone well in game number 2, I suppose, as he got towards the late game. For now, though, we can head back into game number 4 here for the grand finals of WCS Austin.
And we are back, ladies and gentlemen, into the midst of a bloody grand final here at WCS Austin. The score is 2-1, and we have had quite a brawl between these 2 non-Korean StarCraft 2 players. Neeb defending his home turf in the United States of America against Nerchio, the best European who has brought his strength to this tournament to try and get himself another championship this year.
The good old Europe versus NA, Nate. It just continues as we are
Twitch
loading
chat's favorite argument, Roddy.
as we are loading into Proxima Station for Game 4 of this Grand Finals.
And spawning in the bottom left position of Proxima Station, we have that blue Protoss player representing Ting. He is Neeb.
I love how the casters are joining in as well. I see Todd and Clara standing there in the back.
The
Go
Neeb
for the
roar.
Neeb.
The Neeb roar. It's meta now. In the northeast position, we have the red Zerg player representing Euronics Gaming, leading 2-1. He is Nerchio.
The cool thing is, Nate, that both of these players, of course, made it to the WCS Global Finals last year, being played at BlizzCon. And the winner of this series will go there as well this year. There's a good chance they'll make it regardless when it comes to WCS points, because we know how good they are. And it's just unlikely that they won't finish high enough. But it's still very nice at the very first attempt here in the beginning of the year to just go for that and secure that ticket for, you know, November.
Yep, and Proxima Station is just one of those maps where we see a lot of these defensive plays, so I think we're going to have, once again, a very mid-game, maybe more so late-game focused position between these two players, since you have that pocket natural expand. Of course, the Zerg player likes to take the one out front, because then it just makes taking the back base easier later on. But is there anything in particular that you think Neeb's done so far in this series that works better here? Is this a map where he might try to get to that air toss setup later, or maybe a bit faster than he did on Newkirk?
Yeah, that's definitely possible, and I think in general a lot of Zergs truly hate dealing with it. And I kind of thought that at a point where if the carry count goes high enough and you have a bunch of high Templars, there is just not that much that Zerg can do about it anymore, until I saw Cero go up against Showtime in, you know, Challenger, the European qualifiers for this event, and he just made 50, 60, 70 Spore Crawlers, and I was like, all right, these carriers look pretty useless right now, and they were. So I am not sure. I don't feel that that is necessarily something that Nerchio truly enjoys. And even if he doesn't enjoy and he would be very good with it, he'd probably still do it. But I just don't see Nerchio as the type of Zerg that's excellent when it comes to static defenses. Nerchio is great with units, he's great with engagements, he's great with mind games, he's very smart, but he's not the type of player to just sit back and grind it out against a maxed out Protoss.
Yeah, I think a very interesting comparison to make there is a guy like Nerchio versus someone like Snoot, who probably prefers to be in that sort of situation. Both players that excel at prolonging that mid-game phase as they make their way over towards the extremely high tiers of tech. But at the same time, playing late game versus Snoot, I mean, we've seen it. It's very scary. Nerchio's going to be a little bit more active. He's going to be a little less passive. And as we see in this game, it's that Stargate opening one more time.
Yep. Very important to mention, besides that seed into the WCS Global Finals, of course, the winner of this tournament will also walk away with $25,000.
Damn.
It's a solid start of your summer, right? It's almost summer. We could say that this is getting this beginning of the summer.
You know, you want to have that money before the summer so you can make all your awesome beach plans. Because, you know,
Ibiza. Ibiza with bling, let's go.
Yeah, exactly. you look at a guy like Nerchio, you look at a guy like Neeb, they both look like they definitely like to hit the beach as soon as it gets sunny outside. So take that time, enjoy this victory, whoever walks away with it. The follow-up will be the Twilight Council. So maybe that Resonating Glaives follow-up, maybe does he do something crazy like last game where he just doesn't use the gas that he takes and goes ham on Adepts?
There is a chance. I mean, we've seen multiple Protoss players do that at Proxima. This is also a map where War Prisms can fly in from every angle.
Yeah.
And once these Adepts start shading around, there's a good chance that Neeb is like, well, last game he scouted it. He'll never expect me to do the same thing again. And this time I'll make sure he won't scout it that easily. So there is a chance, Neeb, but at the other hand, you're taking a risk as well, because your opponent is ready for that mass Adept play. And it is possible for the Zerg to shut it down if you just make the right amount of units and you position them correctly. And do you really want to roll the dice and potentially go down 3-1 in the Grand Finals?
Yeah, that's a good point. You have to be very cautious. The lair is on the way.
That's a great
for
start,
Nerchio,
by the way, for Nerchio.
pushing him back off the third.
Yep. This is going to delay everything for quite a bit. One more Adept is going to move out. You're going to force these Oracles to use their Pulsar Beam here as well. You don't want to do that. And we do have that one Phoenix that's going to clear out these Overlords. But we'll keep a close eye on the production tab to see what follows.
Yep, and we'll see if he goes straight into, you know, this heavy Roach style that we've seen so far, or if he's going to make another play for the Hydralisk composition like he did on the last game. The Overlord's trying to just not be in the path of the Phoenix that are going to be scouring the map looking for them. Resonating Glaives just past halfway done. The Adepts are going to move across the map. The Oracles are here. One of them has quite a bit of energy. So let's see what he wants to do with this. He's actually going to the main. There's just 2 queens here. Okay, off creep. Well, rip queens.
Yep, and they were on move command as well, so they didn't even start shooting until one of them pretty much went down. This is an awesome start.
Oh, the Spore isn't done in the natural base either, so he's going to get quite a few drones. Neeb finally catching a little bit of a break here in this 4th game.
Yep, this is fantastic. Really can't wish for much more out of these 2 Oracles. 2 queens, 9 drones.
Damn.
Lost mining time as well, and this was only the beginning. Where did the Adepts go? Maybe Neeb stopped with the Adepts. He's like, that went fantastic. Let's make sure I don't move my command, my Adepts into a bunch of banelings. Now he's gonna move out. But 12 Adepts, they are a little bit exposed here, but the Adept count is so high.
Resonating Glaives too just gives him so much oomph to that push. We have the
full
muscular augments on the way, that full wall off to try and keep the Adepts from getting inside, but they can smack down that evolution chamber. Ain't nothing but a thing.
Yep, 12 Adepts actually have quite a bit of DPS, and that first Evo is going to go down almost immediately. Re-wall, but it's not a proper wall.
The drones are on the run, Roddy. 5 roaches are on the way, but that's not going to be enough to stop this. He's gotten a few more of the workers. Counterattack's going to hit, though. The Ling's getting on top of the probes as the Adept Shades are going to start to spread out between the natural and the backdoor base. Queens are falling, roaches are falling. However, the third still taking some. He needs to keep some of the warpins back home. He doesn't have a prism out on the map, so just defend while these Adepts rip apart the opponent's expansions. I will say Nerchio definitely got a lot of damage done back on his own.
Yeah, that's way more damage than I ever expected a couple of Lings to do, but these Adepts, they ain't done yet. 14 drones have gone down, and there are plenty of Adepts left to make that a little more. And look at all these drones.
God.
None of them are mining. The Queen is getting surrounded by drones as well. Few Adepts left behind. The other Adepts are going to go towards the low ground, see if they can find some more.
Not mining. The income hit, it hit 0 for a second there, or maybe had 1 that was barely mining a patch, but the Oracles are gonna come back and Nerchio's just gonna tap out. GG Neeb with a flawlessly executed attack there. Those Oracles setting up the slam dunk with those drone kills, the 2 queens, and then following it up with the resonating glaives of Adepts that killed half the Zerglings before he even reached Nerchio's base.
Yeah, the wall off was too late, and it's kind of unfortunate to see that just those 2 queens being move commanded for a split second, the Adepts catching them, the Oracles catching those queens the moment they were off creep. That was the beginning of the end, man. There was just not enough Zerg. I love the counter-attack, and Nerchio actually did a lot with it because Neeb delays his Mothership Core so incredibly much. But it doesn't matter. Killing 12, 13 probes, that's great. What are you going to do about those 15 Adepts with Resonating Glaives in your main?
Not a whole lot. It is a funny sight to see all of a man's drones bunched up like that around one queen, just trying to find a place to hide, Roddy. We are going to Bel'shir Vestige for the next map in this best of 7 as we get closer and closer to Palladino Terminal.
I was looking at that as well, and even Undergrounds is kind of a unique map, right? It's not a map that we see incredibly often in PvZ. Spawning positions matter a lot. There is a chance we could see some of that Drop Alert play that Nerchio loves to do, but...
I'm excited to see what happens on that map since we're definitely going to get there. At least, you know, you'd have to win 2 for either player. So I've always liked Undergrounds. Bel'shir gives us a lot of straightforward, good games. So I think this next one's going to be maybe our last normal game as far as strategies go. All the weird stuff should come out after this one.
I think out of all the games so far, that was definitely the most frustrating one, though, for either player. I mean, for Neeb, that just feels fantastic, because Neeb just lost a pretty damn close game number 3, right? It felt that that's a game that could have gone either way, but it got scouted, his attack was revealed, and he's like, man, you know, that just doesn't sit well. And then you pick up such a... I mean, I'd almost say cheeky game number 4 victory there.
Yeah.
And you just completely forget about those previous games. You're like, all right.
That's
all even.
I believe in the words of the almighty Tasteless, that would be called a bop, with the Oracles accidentally setting himself up to take that game so fast. Going in now to game number 5. You're watching the WCS Austin Grand Finals in the top left position as the blue Protoss player tying things up 2-2. Give it up for Neeb.
Safe to say that Bel'shir is the last of the very normal maps remaining of this grand final.
Yep. On to Undergrounds and then Palladino after this. In the bottom right, we have the red Zerg player. He is Nerchio.
I feel whenever Nerchio makes it to a grand final, it's pretty much always close. I can't really remember an incredibly one-sided grand final. I know that he went up against Marine Lord and he did win that one 4-0, but the score really doesn't do those games justice, because that was an absolutely phenomenal TvZ final back then, where it came down to Liberators and Ghost and Banelings and Infestus. That was probably the most competitive 4-0 grand final that I've ever seen in my life. I loved it, and so far, Nate, these games, I mean, it really comes down to just the absolute smallest occasions.
I think it's safe to say that this WCS Austin has probably some of the best series from foreign players, especially, that we have seen in an extremely long time. Yesterday's series almost all went to the 5th match. They were insanely competitive, insanely good, and a lot of unexpected results. You know, Kellezer trying to claw his way back against Nerchio was an extremely shocking end of the series yesterday, because a lot of people would have said, oh yeah, should be able to get a 3-0. Nerchio is that good. But a lot of players really showed up. They really stepped up their game for WCS Austin, and it makes me very excited for the next tournament as well.
Yep, and even earlier, right, at the first day, we had a couple of great storylines. It was hard to cover them all.
You get to see some cool NA players that you don't hear about as much. You know, guys like Game Time beating Uthermal. Those are the guys that beat us up on ladder.
I know, right? Like, Game Time is just the perfect example of somebody that you see streamers losing against all the time, and it's like, Nathanius just isn't what he used to be, right? It's like, no, guys, Game Time is actually pretty good.
Game Time, actually, he definitely got a lot better than I got worse. He is a beast beating Uthermal.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun, and what I love the most as well is that the entire top 32 of this tournament got paid. So it's such an awesome opportunity for some of these local NA players to not just attend the tournament, because competing is fun, but competing and winning $1,000 is a whole lot more fun, Nate.
I think it's safe to say that a lot of the North American players that came out here to compete in this open bracket, even if they didn't make it super far, definitely had a good time. And it's always awesome to get to see how they face off against some of the titans of the foreign StarCraft scene. But for this game, Bel'shir Vestige, the base was taken on the left side. Now he's going on to that 3-base setup as the Adept moves out to get this scouting information, do a bit of poking for Neeb. And it's once again the Stargate. Is there anything that Zerg players ever do to try and like cheese players that go for Stargate?
No, because Stargate is actually so good against cheese. I mean, Oracles are great against Link Floods, and you can also go Oracle Void Ray to shut down any sort of Dropper Lord or any sort of Roach Ravager rush afterwards. So technically, this is not a cheesable opening. The only way you can ever cheese it if you can somehow unpower the Stargate, or if the Oracle flies across the map and somehow misses all the Protoss units. So no, and this is one of the reasons why Protoss also loves this opening that much, because A, you should be able to get some sort of value out of your opening, no matter what it is, preferably a lot of drones, but if not, well, you force out a couple spores, you get a queen here and there, maybe you can pick off a couple of links that are by themselves, but you can't die to cheese. At least you're not supposed to die to cheese. And in general, whenever you expect your opponent to potentially be very aggressive, opening up one gate or Stargate is just the safest way to go.
Yeah, I think that's. I think we've seen from the utility that the Oracle provides that's definitely something that makes a lot of sense with all the scanning, all the scouting that you can do with it. We do have that Roach Warren coming underway, as well as it looked like a Spore Crawler, at least for a moment, and 14 Zerglings being added into the mix by Nerchio, as Neeb does look like he has his probes set up to try and grab that 3rd base. Oracle's going to go to the normal natural expansion. There's nothing there, so turns on the Pulsar Beam and turns it off.
Yeah, this time he's not going to be able to get as lucky as we saw in some of these other occasions. What is very interesting and noteworthy is how much Neeb delays his Mothership Core. He kind of got punished for that on Proxima, but in the end it didn't matter because his Oracles did so much more. This time you can see that he went for a slightly quicker MS Core. He's like, well, I noticed that Nerchio's starting to capitalize on that. Well, he's actually just going in. This is not something that we've seen Neeb do. Shade in so recklessly. He got 5 drones, but I don't think that's worth it, Nate.
5 drones at the cost of 5 Adepts. 6 loss total this game. Definitely questionable as to the value that you get out of those. The Lair is on the way. He does have the 3rd in the robotics facility, but can he hold on to this without taking any damage back with how much he's pushed into this?
He has 1 photon overcharge, and he's going to use it. Look at that sentry. He's like, sorry, Adept, but I'm going to keep myself safe first. Because
You're the big, strong dude. You can hold it. No big deal.
You fight Lings all the time. I'm just meant to hold the door.
I am, exactly. Could not have said it better. So the lair almost complete. Twilight Council coming in with the Forge. So with the Forge and the Twilight Council and the Immortals in production, it's probably, what do you think? Go to charge +1 instead of Resonating Glaives?
I think this is more of what we saw in that game #1 on Cactus Valley, which I think was perhaps the most fun game so far.
Feel like I'm learning, Roddy. I'm learning, soaking up this knowledge. Whoa, okay.
I mean, I don't think you were wrong, because I was kind of expecting that as well. Instead, it's going to be Resonating Glaives, and this is kind of odd, because it's a late Glaives, and we have Immortals as well. So there is a chance that, I mean, Bel'shir is one of the maps where you can drop some great force fields. So there is a good chance that Neeb is going to take all the gases, he's going to get a bunch of sentries, and he's going to rely on force fields and adapts, and then 1 or 2 Immortals in the back to just pick off those roaches that you do force field. Because look at the gateway count. Stelt was sitting here, you'd say, Le Explosion the gate, Nate.
Yeah.
Because that's a lot of additional gateways right now for Neeb.
Yeah. He's got a very powerful production setup now. And with the +1, I mean, the Adepts, they kind of deal with the Lings pretty well on their own, right? But I guess it'll help him punch through everything else a little bit more easily. It will certainly help the Immortals as he's placing some stasis traps as well. This one's trying to grab a worker, I guess, when he transfers drones.
It's very important that Nerchio picks up on this, that he notices that those gases have not been taken yet, that he notices that there are still Adepts being warped in, and that's odd, because normally you don't see Adepts being warped in this phase in the game. Normally you start getting ready. He scouts it, he sees that these gases ain't taken. That's a big scout for someone as good as Nerchio, because now he knows, I need units, because otherwise he wants to have gas for Archons. If that's not what he's going for, then he obviously wants to attack me.
Yep, and the Ling's actually able to get on top of a couple of these probes, so he's being annoying, forces out the Photon Overcharge, forces these probes to whip out their tasers as he gets 5 of them picked off during all of this. Phoenix goes to the right side, but here's the army on the left, ready to knock down this 4th base.
And there are multiple stasis wards as well, so Nerchio's going to have to be incredibly careful. I don't think that Nerchio wants to jump on that. That's why he's expanding on the right side already. He's going to sacrifice his base at 9 o'clock, and I kind of like that call, because that's a very hard area to fight, and he doesn't have the right numbers to just run in 1 by 1 and just get force fielded out.
Yep, these Lings still being very annoying, grabbing another probe. 9 killed over the last few moments here. The worker count is still very close, but he's definitely hemorrhaging some losses.
Look at all these units in the middle of the map for Nerchio. Nerchio is looking for one of these engagements that we know him for so well. He's morphing a couple of those roaches in Ravagers. Is it going to be in time, though? I don't think that Neeb wants to step that deep on creep, because no matter how good your force fields are, just being on creep makes life so much easier for the Zerg. Yeah. Starting +2 and he's taking his extra gases. I think Neeb is like, all right, I killed your fort. Maybe I shouldn't overcommit here. Maybe I shouldn't throw away this army. I'm going to be very careful from this point forward.
He needs to be super cautious about the way he approaches this Robo Bay Observer added. But hey, the whole army is still down there on that left side. He throws a bunch of Adept Shades. He's not... Okay, no, he lets a few of them finish, try to get to the mineral line. I do like that, as the Biles don't really connect too well. Trying to get these drones at the natural expansion.
Oh, Nerchio sending a few too many units, I feel. For a split second, I think Neeb was thinking about it. But at the same time, he was like, I've made this mistake before. I've overcommitted once or twice already. Let's not get too crazy. Let's not get too ahead of myself. I've got a Robo Bay on the way. I've got a second robotics facility on the way. Neeb does scout this base now that's being taken on the right side of the map. I wonder if he feels like he needs to do something about it, or if he's like, nah, I'm going to get some disruptors out, and I really don't have to worry that much about your roaches and ravagers.
Yep, the disruptors will definitely help an insane amount in terms of dealing with this. His army's being forced to go up the left side. Maybe he's going to try to make a play on that right side base. Revelation tag. The Prism also hits the southwest base during all of this.
It is kind of awkward, though. There is one pylon there, but it's going to be hard for these Immortals to get in a good position. The force fields do go down.
Force fields lock in the entire army. He has to use the Biles to try to break himself out instead of attacking Neeb's army, and Nerchio takes a few heavy hits to his forces as the Adepts continue to make their way towards the natural once again.
And don't forget, Nate, the first Disruptors are on the way, and Disruptors are just absolutely fantastic against these roaches and ravagers. Even if you're as good as Nerchio is, good job there repositioning the Sport Crawlers. Might actually be able to get the Warp Prism.
Very close, but no cigars. The Adepts continue to focus fire down the drones. The main army rolls on up to the right side. Just focus that hatch. Recall, get the hell out of there, Neeb. 2 disruptors are on the way. He's back in position at the 3rd base, and Nerchio taking quite a few heavy blows.
Yep, Nerchio's down in upgrades as well. Neeb still just buying a little bit of time with these Adepts. Even if these Adepts don't really kill anything anymore, it doesn't matter. Time is on the side. I like this, though. 6 Dropalords. We're going to see the drop play of Nerchio for the first time in this series, but that's the only way you could possibly win this game, because running into Immortals, Adepts, Force Fields, and Disruptors, there is just no way. So Nerchio needs to somehow outmaneuver Neeb.
Another thing I've been thinking about is he also has a lot of map vision on that left side, a lot of stasis wards placed throughout the field. So his ability to kind of see what's going on, maybe you could, no, they don't have that much vision, but if he flies over one, he will spot it. The Oracle is very close, could be the one unit to see it.
There isn't that much anti-air, so even if he spots it, the only thing I think he has right now is one Phoenix and a couple of sentries. Neeb doing a really good job.
He's loading up.
Yep. How many drones have died in this game so far?
22.
That's pretty good. The Oracle is going to spot this, and I just wonder, how is Neeb going to split up his units? That's what I wonder. He's going to drop maybe a stasis. That would be kind of cool. A couple of these units are going to unload into a stasis.
The first unit that comes out should trigger it, so... Yeah. Oh, okay, putting it a little further in can definitely help. He's zoning him out, but maybe he'll throw the bile. No, wow. Okay, wow, that's a really good stasis. Gets a good hit. Some of the biles are going to land on the Adept, and at the same time, the rest of the main army is going to make its way over to the right side. He's just picking up full Terran style, just load up and run, but the Disruptor shots are going to come out. Going for the roaches, whiffs on the first one. He throws out the second and the third, not getting too much there.
Yeah, a little trigger happy, he has to be a little bit careful. Force Fields have to be very good here to keep these Immortals safe, and they are. Nerchio does pick up this fourth base, but at what cost? As he lost quite a few units. He did get one Disruptor,
he got
I
one
believe.
Of the Disruptors in the main base from the drop. Keep in mind, I believe the Overlords are still nearby, ready to go again when necessary.
I mean, if Nerchio can turn this around, that would be an absolutely fantastic comeback. Because normally with the units that he was working with against the composition of Neeb, Zerk is not supposed to win that.
Yep, this is an absolutely crazy scenario. He did kill the Oracle as well, it looks like, with that Corrosive Bile as the Adepts come up here to try and fight this. He's moving forward with the rest of his army, though. These three Big Daddy Immortals, supported by those Disruptors, pushing towards the east side. That base has been rebuilt. I think going for the expansion, that's... Okay, he doesn't have a lot of drones there. Not sure. What's the best call?
I mean, for a second, it looked like Nerchio was maxed out, but I think he ate one or two big Disruptor hits, or just a couple of roaches got force fielded, because he dropped in supply very rapidly.
Oh, I think he's got the Dropper Lords here as well.
Yeah, that's going to hurt, too. A few of the Ravagers going to go down. All of these Overlords going to get picked off. These Hydras don't even have muscular augment.
And that makes them a prime target for those Disruptor shots. You are not running away from those. If those Hydras get hit, if he gets close enough to fire off, they could lose all of them in a heartbeat.
Guardian Shield being activated there as well. There are quite a few Blink Stalkers. There is no retreat for these Hydras. They are just a little too slow, and Neeb knows it as well. He doesn't want to let them escape. At the same time, he also doesn't want to end up losing his Disruptors. But these Hydras on the right side, they look really uncomfortable.
Yep, very awkward position to be in for Nerchio right now as the Protoss army advances forth once more onto the north or the east side of the map. Nerchio's base under fire from the Adepts on the left, under fire from the Immortal Stalker, Death Ball on the right side. A couple roaches get over here. The probes are on the run. Stalkers show up to save him, and Neeb takes a dominating stance in this game.
Yep, his army is just so superior to the army of Nerchio. And, well, we always praise Nerchio for how good his engagements are, but this just doesn't seem very fair. Like, how on earth is he supposed to turn this one around? He doesn't have lurkers. He doesn't even have an upgrade advantage. Neeb has +3, and more importantly, Neeb has Disruptors. I think the only way that Neeb can end up losing this, Nate, is if he blows up his own army.
Yeah, I'm gonna hope that he doesn't do that. That's a sad way to go out. Whoever you want to win the game, certainly not in that manner. But Baneling speed coming in. He got finally the Hydralisk speed. But having this extra base is so nice, and I think you just set your laser target sights on that west expansion and you go to town.
Yep, Nerchio's trying to recover slowly but steady as his supply is going up a little bit again. He's going to close fire a lot of these Adepts shading forward. He's going to let 2 finish as he always does. 2, of course, the magic number to one-shot these drones. At the same time, these Stalkers are moving forward, and these Disruptors are getting in a pretty good position as well, Nate.
Yep, first shot's going to go out, clears out a Ravager and quite a few Larvae. Gets a lot of Banelings with that next one. Gets even more on the south side with those force fields. Hits the Hydras, and Neeb's army continues to ransack and pillage this 4th base of Nerchio, destroying his economy. He's on his final leg, and Neeb takes the lead finally in this series. GG!
Awesome game there by the American Protoss, who's just one map win away from shipping DreamHack WCS Austin. Last year, Nate, he was the runner-up where he thought the semifinals was going to be harder than the final back then. Perhaps it was nerves stopping him, but this year he's looking very good, very calm, and composed, not exposed. I mean, he's been exposed from time to time, but mostly composed. As he's just playing awesome. I mean, that was a very solid game on a map where he just once again chose the right strategy, and he executed, I'd say, almost flawlessly.
Yeah, amazing game out of Neeb. His ability to control those engagements, the positioning, the posturing has been top-notch, to say the least.
Couldn't agree more. 2 maps remain. The next one is going to be played on Undergrounds, a very unique map, as this map is so much bigger than most of the maps you'll see in competitive StarCraft. Every now and then, Nate, we see scenarios where the map is mined out. Haven't seen it yet on Undergrounds. Don't think I ever will.
No. That happened to me once, and it was a very uncomfortable game that involved a lot of dead battle cruisers, and I don't want to think about it. I don't want to think
You
about
mined it out, everything?
Yeah.
Every base?
Yeah.
On Undergrounds?
Yeah.
Wow. How long was it?
It was a really long game.
Yes.
Someone decided that the best way to beat it was to actually throw away like 700 stalkers instead of building other units.
I
So-
think there are like 28 bases in total on this map, Nate.
Yeah.
You mined out all of them.
I mean, I could give you the replay, but you might die of old age watching it. We're loaded in to game number 6 here at the grand finals of WCS Austin. Give a cheer for this man if you want America to take the trophy home in the Northwest. The Blue Protoss player on match point. He's Neeb.
I really wonder what he's going to show us here on Undergrounds, as this map, like I said, is just a little different than some of the other ones we've seen so far.
A very macro-heavy focused map indeed. His opponent in the Northeast, the Polish pride representing Euronics Gaming. Give it up for Nerchio!
I wonder if Nerchio is happy with these spawning positions. Looking at it, we've got horizontal spawns on the top side of Underground, which I feel is a lot better for the Protoss. When it comes to Stargate play, you can be very annoying over here on the left side of this natural of Nerchio. Sometimes you even see some Void Ray action here, and in general, Void Rays are not considered to be very good in this matchup, but you know, they can be safe. They can just hide above that high ground over and over
The high
again.
ground by the natural is such an abusable thing by any race. I mean, it's great for your Liberators, War Prisms, and if you put static defense there, it actually won't shoot unless you have still a flying building or an Overlord to spot for it. So it's one of those positions that will definitely, and I agree with you on this part, favor Neeb because he has that direct path with the War Prism, and if he does clear it out with a Phoenix or anything like that, it's going to be very hard for him to spot.
And it's unfortunate for Nerchio, because let's say if Nerchio would have spawned in the left bottom side, then there is a good chance you'll see him drop some Hydras, some Roaches, maybe some Lurkers even, because he will have a lot of more room to work around. And with these positions, it's just kind of awkward. He's going to have to fly over the third base or take a massive detour.
The way that drops work on this map, I think, is one of the reasons why you don't see it as much as we take a look at. If you guys are hungry, there's the barbecue on Honor Grounds. It's not cooked just yet. I guess it's more like the meat locker, but that's dinner later.
That's from your one game, Nate, where you mined out the map.
Yeah, had to survive somehow. So I think that's one of the reasons why you don't see this map a lot. But also, if we just look outside, if you look down that main base ramp, there's a bunch of length of sight blockers, but it's just a bunch of bases. You have so much money to work with on this map. If you go to that mega late game, you put your big army on that watchtower, you go straight up to what is it, 5, 6 bases immediately with that gold, and you are loving life. You have so much money to work with. It kind of encourages these longer games, especially if you get cross spawns. But I feel like those are scenarios that don't occur very often on the other maps.
Good chance that we are going to see a Dark Shrine opening here coming out of Neeb, something we haven't seen yet in this series. We predicted a lot of Stargate play, and it has been a lot of Stargate play. Now instead it's going to be very fast resonating glaives. Probably 2 more gateways behind this, but this is the fastest glaives that we've seen so far coming out of our American Protoss.
Yep, very, very, very fast Adept attack speed upgrade as the Adept barely manages to nimble its way out with 7 hit points.
This could be, you know, good old 1 gate into resonating glaives, 2 more gateways, bunch of adepts, and then a double Stargate follow-up, which, once again, it may seem also similar to the things that we've seen in the previous games, but that changes everything. It really changes the way the economies work in this matchup. Nerchio is the type of Zerg that prefers defending adepts with resonating glaives with roaches, as we see the roach warren go down, rather than Hydra Bane. But if you make roaches early on, that means that your anti-air is going to be quite a bit later. So going glaives into 2 more gates and then following it up with double Stargate mass Phoenix play, or at least 8-10 Phoenixes, is actually, in theory, super you know, successful and super useful against a player that makes roaches first.
Yep, and I think that this is just one of those maps where trying to throw a strategy out like this can be not necessarily a bad thing. I mostly find this interesting because Neeb has a chance to end the series with this game without having to play on... Man, you know this game way too well, by the way. That's actually weird.
I'm sorry, Nate. I don't have a life.
You do play a lot of Protoss. But, I mean, I was mostly thinking, like, you know, ending the series on your terms with a build that you're very comfortable with here is important because Palladino Terminal is the next map if Neeb doesn't win this. And, I mean, neither of these players probably really want to play that. That's why it was pushed all the way to the end. So things will just get absolutely nuts.
Yeah, I really like this. I think there is a very good chance that if Neeb would have played against the Zerg play that would have opened up Link Bane all the time and trying to shut these adapts down with Link Bane, then there is no way that you go double Stargate behind it because then defending against, you know, the Hydra Bane push becomes incredibly difficult. But against a player like Nerchio, it's actually going to be Void Rays even. So there is a good chance he's going to abuse those Void Rays above that high ground like we said before. But Nerchio does scout it immediately, and now this is just going to be a very interesting game.
Yeah, how much will he be able to get done? That natural, as you said, is still going to be exposed. One of the reasons why some players will expand down the other side if they know where the opponent spawns very early on. But in this case, he still has to worry about the Adepts, that very fast resonating glaze, and +1 for those Void Rays very quickly as well, Kev, with a third base.
I love this. I really think this is super cool. Everything that Neeb is showing us. I wonder how many Void Rays we'll see. Well, he's going to queue up a few more. So there is a chance that exactly what we mentioned in the beginning of the game, on the left side of that natural of Nerchio, there's a good chance these Void Rays will start being annoying over there. There's a good chance these Void Rays will be useful in shutting down a fourth base. And once again, well, Nerchio's getting a Spire. That is super interesting. Where is that Spire? Okay.
Fight fire with fire, it would seem.
Doesn't want to play Hydras because I guess he knows what happens if he plays Hydras. They're just going to run around like headless chickens.
The way
left
this map
to right.
works, the way that you can kind of dance around, the Hydra will have a very difficult time actually engaging the Void Rays. Although if they can get under them,
yeah,
it works.
I mean, at the same time, you could also still say just make a bunch of drones and then make one big Hydra push, and even if it's an all-in or not, there's a good chance that you will make it work because Void Rays are terrible against Hydras in a straight-up fair fight.
Amen. I played enough 4v4 to learn that lesson, Kev.
Well, here they come.
4 Void Rays making their way towards this base. +1 almost done. 2 more Void Rays on the way behind this. He could activate Prismatic Alignment and try to focus down the Spore Crawler, make his way through. He does have the Mothership Core here for recall capability. And, okay, so the Queens are all trying to make their way out. He could try to focus down this Queen, just go for drones or go for the hatch. It is going to be the drones, microing back the weakened Void Rays and just trying to play around this the best he can. 6 drone kills, not too shabby. 2 more Void Rays coming out now.
This is so funny to see. I haven't seen this since, you know, the Axiom Protoss days where Crank and Alicia used to do this all the time, fly around with a bunch of Void Rays and a Mothership Core. It's going to be Mutalisk. Gotta give a shout out to Naniwa here, who once upon a time said that if I was a Mutalisk, I would like to meet a Void Ray, suggesting that Mutas are pretty damn good against Void Rays, and Void Rays are not very good against Mutas.
And he needs to recognize this because the Spire choice is not only unusual, it can be strong versus these Voids, especially since the shields are low, if he's able to catch him off guard.
Yeah, the Mothership Core is very important here. If he can somehow dive on top of this Mothership Core, he reveals the Mutas, I think a little too early. I think technically Neeb can just recall here. Well, he's going to fight at first, and then he will recall.
He's losing a few of these Void Rays. He needs to get the hell out of there. Focusing down the Mutas is not a bad choice, but loses another one, and those Void Rays are much more expensive than the Mutalisks.
Yeah, I would have loved to see Nerchio hide it a tiny bit longer.
Third Stargate. Let's go.
Yeah, he
shifts into the next gear, Roddy.
Neeb's just getting everything now. He's getting a couple Phoenixes. He's getting a robotics facility. He's getting a robo base. So that's his second robo, actually. And yeah, he just wants to make sure he can get any impulse crystals, I assume, to deal with Muta Corruptor.
I didn't see a fleet beacon on the way yet, but I imagine he'll get it at some point. Those Phoenix just, they're moving and not shooting.
They really want to get...
Oh, they were trying to get the Mutalisk.
Oh, this is very awkward right now. Is there an answer for all these adepts? A couple of Roaches and Ravages being produced. What a weird game so far, Nate. Just a lot of...
highly unusual army compositions coming out of these guys. Very, very, very strange game so far. Oh, he's going to let the Adept Shades finish. Okay, just trying to get into the main. He's buying himself a lot of time by doing this, but once he loses all of these Adepts, a lot of the presence that he has on the ground is completely gone. The follow-up into Disruptor Immortal is a whole other thing, though. 14 drones, not bad. Not bad.
Not bad at all for a couple of adapts, especially if you have enough time to just survive at home. Few force fields will go down. Neeb starting to look better and better. I just wonder why Nerchio's going to go with this, because You know, I feel like the Roaches were more of a panic reaction because of all these adapts. He's like, okay, I want to make sure I don't die with a bunch of Corruptors. Now we see the Hydra then go down after all. I'm just kind of confused, Nate.
Yeah, this has been a very weird game, Roddy. I don't really know what to say. Disruptor, Void Ray, Phoenix, this is the thing?
A couple of Corruptors are going to show up and try to perhaps pee on this Nexus. That's not
yeah. They're going for it. A couple Stalkers will get warped and try to deal with this. The damage output of those bad boys is pretty high. It's once the Corruptor has been doing it for a few seconds, it gets really insane. Of course, the Void Rays are also gnarly against Corruptors.
Yep, and these Phoenixes are going to make it very annoying for these Corruptors to ever get home. The Phoenixes by themselves are not very good against Corruptors, but if the Void Rays would actually show up, instead he's going to let these Corruptors retreat home for now, even though they were forced to take a detour.
All right, so the Hydras are coming out. Infestation Pit is finishing up. We do have a good number of Disruptors that have been added onto the field. He has the Adepts. Very interestingly rounded out army composition from Neeb as he takes his 4th base and advances to the ramp.
I'm just worried about these Disruptors. What is the answer to these Disruptors? What does Nerchio have to offer that Neeb really has to respect other than fantastic splits or maybe a godlike engagement? And it seems like Nerchio's just going to go for the engagement here.
Yeah, he's going for a big collapse. Gets a couple of the Okay, the Disruptors actually do get caught mostly. Gets one really good shot on the tail end as Nerchio chases just a little bit too far. Immediately warping in, or excuse me, morphing in another round of those Ravagers from whatever Roaches that he has left. He's trying to run these Adepts back towards the main base. Just lets them do at the front and finish.
He even tricked our observer, Kevin, who's been doing a great job. That's how you know Neeb is good.
He is good. He tries to put this one Disruptor in the front. He wants to get the money shot on these Ravagers. Gets just one of them. The army is still mostly on the south side. Throws out 2 Purification Novas. Gets a handful of these units, but still being routed back for now. Okay, able to isolate the Zerglings. Not bad, not bad.
That's actually really impressive how Nerchio is doing this, but he's far from out of the woods. That's a lot of additional depth showing up, but a lot of these Disruptors, well, they have been picked up, and that one Disruptor can't actually shoot. A lot of these Adepts will shade all the way in. I think as Neeb realized, like, hey, I've been losing quite a few units. I need to buy some more time. I want to get my Disruptor count back up.
Yep. And he's able to see the Hive. He's inside on top, getting drone kills, keeping a majority of his Adepts moving around. He's in the main, he's in the natural, he's in the 3rd base, I believe, as well, or maybe he didn't shade all of those Adepts in.
Wow.
More Disruptors are finishing up, +3 attack is on the way, and drones are dying in droves, Roddy.
Yep. What would you like to see the moment the Hive finishes up? You think we're going to see a Great Aspire, or would like to see some Vipers, maybe for Abduct?
I don't know what to think. He's got 3 Stargates and +1. The only thing he doesn't have is the Fleet Beacon, but...
To be honest, I am so impressed with the way that Nerchio has been handling these previous fights. He's going to jump on that Disruptor, but the next one...
all over the Zerg army. Nerchio takes quite a blow there.
I mean, this just seems like this cannot go right forever for the Zerg, right? Like once or twice.
At some point, he's going to crack him with these Disruptors. Kudos to him for spreading the creep so he can move around, but he's just peeling away. Another couple Hydralisks there as well.
And Nerchio's not exactly incredibly rich. Like, he has a decent economy and he's been doing a good job in keeping that drone count quite high, but he keeps on losing a couple of workers here and there. And these Disruptor shots, they are for free. Now a couple of the Crypto ones are going to get picked off as well. That's going to make it harder and harder for these Roaches and Ravagers to get close to these Disruptors of Neeb.
Another 2 Hydras snagged right then and there. The Adepts are still running around inside the main base. Again, they're inside of that 3rd, and he's still throwing these Disruptor shots. Like you said, Kev, as long as he clears up the creep, you reduce the mobility of the Zerg army, you leverage the fact that the Disruptors attack moves so fast. Gets 2 more Ravagers with that shot. He's going for the surround once more. Does he have any more Novas to throw? But he's going to drop one into the Ravagers. Gets another big shot off and up from the ramp. Barely able to dodge that is Nerchio.
Yeah, but look how rich Neeb is behind all of this. Neeb has obviously been very focused on his army control, but he had 2,000 minerals in the bank. He's going to warp in 10 Stalkers. I believe he has Blink as well, right? We saw him Blink before.
Yep.
Wow. I mean, this just starting to look better and better for the American Protoss, even though he is being hyper-aggressive, almost to the point.
Beacon starting up now as well. Great shot with the Disruptor there. Some biles get thrown, but landing on nada. There's another shot, gets 3 more of the Ravagers.
This is just a fight that you almost can't win. I mean, the Great Aspire is done, but
he's brutalizing him. He's getting ready to make this next big push. Another devastating Disruptor shot. Neeb's Disruptor control Disgusting. 2 more shots go out, ripping and tearing Nerchio to pieces with the next round of reinforcements. These Blink Stalkers, I don't know how he's going to stop them. 3 Broodlords are not going to finish in time. The Stalkers can focus fire these. He has the Disruptors. GG Neeb is your WCS Austin champion.
Fantastic finals, fantastic performance there by the American Protoss. Last year he was the runner-up. This year he's going to lift the trophy.
An absolutely astonishing achievement for the Ting Protoss player and an awesome final.
Neeb, when I spoke to you, you said you really wanted to make the grand finals here in Austin. When you made the finals, you said you couldn't believe it, but you better believe it now because you are the WCS Austin champion.
It feels so great after last year. I failed pretty hard. This year is another PvZ in the finals, and I didn't prepare that much, just like last year, but it worked out a lot better. I think I played quite well, actually.
So many fans that have been cheering so hard for you here. How much more satisfying is this win to not only become a StarCraft 2 champion, but to do so in your home country, here in America, in Austin, where, as you just said, you were runner-up over a tough opponent like Nerchio?
Yeah, it was pretty rough that I didn't win any tournament last year except Kespa Cup, which was pretty nice. So I'm glad I finally picked up a WCS tournament win.
And I know that a lot of people throw around words like American hero, NA hope. People really look at you and cheer for you so hard, as it's nice to see someone representing that NA flag or NA hope so well. In terms of all this accolades that people are throwing at you, how much pressure do you end up feeling from it?
I think I feel some pressure like before the games and like when I initially played the tournament, like the first few rounds, but when I'm in the games themselves, I'm pretty good, I think, at just focusing on the game and blocking everything else out.
Now, of course, last but not least, this crowd here has been neebing so hard from you throughout this entire tournament. So please, a word for all your fans here as well as all the fans you have watching.
Thank you so much for cheering for me and being a part of StarCraft 2. It makes it worth playing, I think.
Congratulations, Neeb, again on becoming the WCS Austin champion. Thank you guys so much for watching, and for everyone here in Austin for coming out. You guys are what make this worth it for both the players and all of us working here. So thank you guys so much. We'll be back in June for WCS Yon Jumping, so make sure to tune in then. And until then, from here, everyone here in Austin, please have a great night. And again, thank you.